Alrighty, welcome to the 86th edition of Before the Battle. My name is Nick Baldwin of BloodyElbow.com. I'm joined as always by Jed Meshew of MMAfighting.com. And back for the first time in what seems quite a while is MMAcycle.com's Wes Riddle. Wes, gotta go to you first. Sorry, Jed, but Wes, you've been gone for so long. How have you been? How has your October been? Because I don't remember even the last time we talked to you. And why have you been ducking the show for so long?
Dude, things have been absolutely chaotic on my side. I've had so much work to do here at school. I'm finishing up. This is definitely the hardest semester I've had, but I've also been pretty busy with a lot of other things going on in my life. Luckily, I've had time to pop in, and I'm feeling definitely down to talk about some MMA because it's been a while. I haven't really been on Twitter a whole lot either, so I honestly haven't really been I wouldn't say into it, but I haven't really followed it as much as I should, especially in these past month and a half, 2 months. So I'm definitely ready to hop back on, and I'm glad to talk to you guys.
Excellent. Good to hear you're doing good, and good to hear school is going decent as well. Jed, I imagine same old, same old.
Yeah, I'm shocked that Wes, in his last whatever little section of school was somehow the hardest. That's not how college is supposed to work for people. It's always supposed to be easier the further in you get. But glad you're sticking with it, Wes. But other than that, for me, yeah, I'm excited to talk about the fights. Most of them, some of them. I mean, we're starting out a little rough here. I'm doing some last minute trying to see what the hell Marcelo Golm is about because he's fought 5 times in tiny regional shows, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, I'm doing well. What about you, Nicholas? We never ask you how you're doing. How are you doing? You're probably doing pretty well because last week our numbers through the roof, just out of this world without Wes. So I don't know, Wes. If we don't do as good of numbers with you here, I think we know what that means.
I was going to bring that up, and I forgot. I don't know what happened, so thank you all. I imagine none of those 2,000 people that somehow found Before the Battle episode 85 last week are watching right now, but if you happen to be a new fan, thank you for watching, and thank you to all 2,000. I don't know how that happened. I imagined it was on Reddit because we've seen spikes like that in the past. Nothing on there. I checked the underground, nothing on there. My only thought is what my MMA Circus co-host told me earlier tonight off air was something like YouTube somehow put it on trending for MMA or something. I have no idea, but it was somewhere because we certainly did not just get 2,000 people from Twitter. But nonetheless, thank you guys.
It was somewhere, and I want to say one thing about that. I'm not thanking you. You're welcome. You're welcome that we took the time out of our days.
Come on, that's unoriginal. That's from the gangster himself. Come on, Jed Meshew.
No, it is. You are welcome because if you paid attention last week, we all crushed it. And by we all, I mean you and me crushed it. Wes is pretending like he crushed it because he sent us his picks in after the fact. But whatever. You and I both did extremely well. So you're welcome for telling you what was going to happen before it happened. You can't get that type of clear, concise insight anywhere else in the world. You're welcome.
Yeah, Wes Riddle is some lucky bastard. He doesn't do the show. He submits his picks last minute, completely last minute. I think he comes out on top, and it happens to be the most viewed episode of our history, our 2.5-year history, almost 3 year. So, Wesley Riddle, luck is on your side. That's all I'll say.
I'm feeling pretty good about my luck this week too. I don't know. I'm just saying that. Unfortunately, every time I feel like I'm on the show, I do really garbage. But then when I'm never on the show,
that's why he's not here.
Single time. So maybe I'll just stop showing up every single week.
You're not actually in college. You weren't actually just touring Virginia singing. You just want to win the show.
Well, it actually was for college, but I still was able to do a little bit of film study and laying in bed here and there. So that's kind of what got me a little bit lucky last week.
Well, last week, as you mentioned, we had UFC Fight Night 118 from Gdansk, Poland. We had, in the main event, an upset. Darren Till TKO's Donald Cowboy Cerrone, a veteran in the lightweight and welterweight division in the very first round. Very shocking result, in my opinion. I think, did we all go Cowboy? I believe we did. No, Wes, you went Till, did you not?
No, I thought about changing it last minute, but I still stuck with Cerrone.
Okay, so we were all a bit surprised there. I think me particularly, but nonetheless, let's get to the results from UFC Gdansk, Poland last week. DraftKings, our normal picks, and bonuses. What do you got for us, Jed?
Well, I don't. Oh, I do happen. Do you happen, Nick? While I do this, can you pull up who won the bonus? Like who were the bonus winning people? Because I didn't write that down. But our recap currently, Wesley, you and Nicholas. I'm gonna allow you to tie here, Wes, despite the fact that you didn't get your picks in before the show. You clearly have more time than us to prepare. I think that clearly made an influence here. But Wes and Nick, both of you guys went 9-2. You had the exact same picks actually. Your differences were, or the losses for you were the aforementioned Cerrone Till fight in the main event. And all three of us also picked Clark to get the tight win over Jan Blachowicz. Blachowicz obviously ended up with a really cool, weird sort of standing bulldog choke, kind of a no hooks RNC.
And I suppose is UFC caliber after all.
Yeah, he was always UFC caliber. I told you that. I don't know why you don't ever listen to me. I'm always right. But I would imagine that performance probably got Blachowicz a bonus. Certainly should have, because it's a nifty choke. One that you don't see every day. I went 8-3. The one I also lost out on Cerrone and Clark. The other pick I had there, I picked Stasiak to get the win over Brian Kelleher. I thought that fight was really close and that Stasiak might be able to out-grapple Kelleher. Didn't end up that way, though. I think there was a lot of debate about who was winning that fight going into the third before Kelleher.
I thought
Kelleher was winning.
About, maybe.
No, I thought Kelleher was winning, but I saw a lot of Twitter action saying that it could have been 2 rounds up for Stasiak, could have been even. I thought, to me, it seemed pretty clear that Stasiak was fading, but Kelleher took all the guesswork out of it and got the deed done in the third. So good on him. You guys take the win there. 9-2 were both of your records. On the DraftKings front, again, it's 2 weeks in a row now that we've had a little bit of tomfoolery that has influenced our scores. Wes Riddle wins with a score of 395. His big earner was Andre Touchy-Feely and Darren Till, both of those guys clocking in over 100 points. Then he had Oscar Piachota got 82, Ramazan Emiev got 66, Stasiak 26, and 7 for Devin Clark. Nick, you brought in at 208.5. You didn't have any really big earners. Piachota was your best at 82. Warley Alves brought in 59, and the rest of your guys, Cerrone, Clark, Lena Landsberg, and Artem Lovov, all took L's. But despite the fact that you picked 4 losers, you still managed to beat me because I picked 3 losers and I picked 4 losers and a dude who didn't fight. I had Stasiak, Lobov, Clark, Cerrone, Oscar Piachota, the same as you. Do we have like the same team? Pretty close.
2 different, maybe.
We had 2 different. You had Landsberg and Warley Alves, whereas I had Stasiak and Weichzerek. I was unaware that the Weichzerek Hamilton fight got canceled. I had a busy weekend doing a lot of wedding stuff. I'm at the age where all my friends start getting married. So, I was dealing with all that. Had no idea that fight was canceled. Didn't edit my team. I don't know that it would have made a difference. Wes won by so much. But for the second week in a row, I turned in a card where guys on my team didn't fight. So I'm bringing up the rear 2 weeks in a row, closing out.
Do you happen – well, let me jump in for a second. Do you happen to have our original teams? Well, because the story for me is I actually changed my team once I heard the Weiserek Hamilton fight was scrapped due to some bizarre reasons. A soccer team that was rebel to dance that Weiserek supported came in and started doing some whatever, and the fight was canceled. No idea, but I ended up changing my team because that was canceled, so I had some money to play with, and I ended up I destroyed my team. I would have done better. I'm pretty sure. I think I calculated I would have done better with my original team if I had left Weiserek in there. So with 5 people, I would have done better than my 6 people. I had Blachowicz in there. Your
team was Cerrone, Weichzerek, Lobov, Kelleher, Blachowicz, and Alves.
Yeah, so I got rid of Blachowicz and Kelleher and brought in Landsberg and I don't know who
You brought in Landsberg and Devin Clark, but you also got rid of Weichsreck. You might have done better. You still probably weren't beating West there. Almost certainly not, because I don't know how many points Kelleher and Blachowicz scored, but it wasn't 400. So you yeah, you probably weren't winning that. But yeah, do you happen to have this bonuses? I believe fight of the night was Stasiak Kelleher.
Yep.
Which makes sense. I would guess that performances went to Blachowicz for that beautiful choke. And let me look over the card and think who maybe else would have deserved a performance bonus.
Easy answer here. Come on.
Darren Till.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. Yeah, well, then none of us got anything. Performances, I had Fight of the Night, Cerrone Till, as did you, as did Wes. All three of us won the Cerrone Till main event for Fight of the Night. Didn't happen for us. Performances, I had Piachota and Held. I changed a lot, and none of the people that I changed to ended up getting it, so that was unfortunate. Wes had Weichsreck and Piachota, which was I also had Weichsreck at one point. Obviously, that came up short. And Nicholas, you had Weichsreck and Alves, so none of us on performances. Breaks a nice little streak you had going. I think you had cashed a performance guest 3 or 4 weeks in a row, Nick, so unfortunate there. But that's our recap. We are ready to move on to UFC Sao Paulo. Is that right?
UFC Sao Paulo, that is it. UFC Fight Night 119 going down from Sao Paulo, Brazil this Saturday night, October 28th. Quite a good card for FS1 standards, quite a bit better than UFC Dansk in my opinion. We have, of course, the return of Lyoto the Dragon Machida in the main event. He's taking on top 10 middleweight Derek Brunson. Damian Maia returns against Colby Covington in the co-main event, and much, much more. Main card is actually really fantastic. We also have the return of John Lineker. We'll get to all of that and much more. But first, we have to go to the UFC Fight Pass early prelims. They kick off at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And we have a heavyweight fight kicking things off between newcomer Marcelo Golm, who Jed knew nothing about, and I'm not sure if he still knows anything, but as he said, he was rushing to find something. He's undefeated, 5-0, all knockouts, but Aaron Bronstetter of TSN brought to his Twitter followers' attention today that Marcelo Golm has 5 wins, but all of his enemies, his prey, if you will.
All of his enemies.
Yeah, that was really bad word choice. But all of his former opponents have a combined record of 2-10. So that might say something. He's taken on Christian Colombo, though, as I said, and Colombo is not anything special, far from it. Jed, Golm or Colombo?
So I managed to take a second out to peep on Golm and see what's doing. I guess I understand why he's a favorite at this point. He's a younger dude and he's more athletic. He's fought 5 times and he's crushed everybody who's terrible, which is like, on the one hand, that's a good thing because, you want that to be happy. Like, you want people to beat the hell out of bad people if they're going to be in the UFC. On the other hand, we haven't had the opportunity to learn anything about him, or at least in the 3 fights I was able to watch very quickly. He's athletic. He can shoot a double leg, and he can punch some. I mean, this guy. Nothing that I saw made me think that this guy is a guy to watch. But at the same time, the most generous way to put this is that Christian Colombo is maybe not worthy of being in the UFC, to borrow your phrase for Jan Blachowicz. But he is extremely slow. This man is slower than molasses on a frozen winter day. Not super athletic, a ton of experience, and that may just be enough to get the job done here. He's been in the UFC. He can jab sort of, and shit, those type of things can fuck up a young guy who hasn't really fought anybody worth their salt. At the same time, like, his fight with Georgistano might be the worst fight I've ever seen. And it's incredible because it's so bad, it's hilarious. But I think that will always make me not pick Christian Colombo. So despite the fact that I think you could be very justified in picking Christian Colombo, I'm going to pick Golm just because he's younger and so much faster than Colombo.
Yeah, I'm pretty much thinking the same thing. I was not really too impressed with Colombo's last outing either. he pretty much showed no output or no real effort to put any punches together. I think he only landed like 3 or 4 punches in the whole fight. And Luis Enrique was able to take him down over and over and just wear him out. And the slow punches, along with just being slow with his movement too, really hasn't got him that far. Marcelo Golm just looks a little bit better of an athlete, especially watching some of his tape. One thing he does a lot of is forward pressure, and that's one thing I think Colombo struggles a lot with. And I think what we'll see too, Colombo doesn't have the best takedown defense. I think Golm, after watching a little bit of tape on him, he looks for takedowns here and there from with some of his forward aggression. He's pretty good at pushing forward. He scores takedowns. I think he'll be able to do that and probably be the first guy to actually TKO Christian Colombo. I know Colombo's been I think he might have been undefeated or only had like 1 loss before his 2 UFC fights, but I just don't think he's that caliber. I think Marcelo Golm having 5 knockouts all in the first round has a little bit of saying for it, even if he's not fighting the best competition. So I'm going to go with Golm by first round knockout. I think he'll take him down and probably be able to TKO him.
Yeah, I'll complete the hat trick and go with the newcomer from Brazil, Marcelo Golm. He is from Brazil, right? I
believe that that's accurate.
The thing with this fight is that I don't have the time to research the ins and outs of both gentlemen. I know enough about Colombo that makes me not want to ever pick him in a fight at UFC level. Anyways, I know he's 8-2. He can beat 8 jobbers, if you will, but he's not really UFC caliber. He's one of the worst heavyweights in the division, and that's saying a lot considering how shallow the division is. He's 0-1-1 in the UFC with, of course, a draw to Jargers Danho in his debut. As Jed said, a terrible fight, and, of course, a submission loss in his last outing to Luis Enrique. The guy's slow. He's kind of getting up there in age. He's never been knocked out, which actually kind of surprised me when Wes said that. Well, actually, it didn't. Yeah. I mean, just thinking of Christian Colombo, you think of a guy who gets knocked out repeatedly. I think that could start now. Golm seems to be a pretty heavy hitter. Basically, this comes down to I have a reason and I have proof to fade Colombo, and I probably will eventually have that with Marcelo Golm because I'm worried he's not that good either. But he's undefeated. There's no reason for now to not pick him in this, against another low-level heavyweight like Colombo. So I will go Golm by knockout. First 10 minutes. I don't know what round, first or second, might take him a little while, but could be sloppy. Could go all 3 rounds. Tough to call, but Golm knockout is my pick. Next up in the feature fight pass early prelim, got Devijan Figueroa taking on Jared the Monkey God Brooks. Jed, Figueroa or Brooks?
I don't know, man. I'm having a hard time picking this one. I think it's a pretty close fight. To me, this fight's going to probably come down to who's going to win the wrestling here. Both these guys really like to grapple, and they like to grapple on their terms. And both had some level of success with that in their UFC debuts. But speaking about the UFC debut, I thought Jared Brooks lost to Eric Shelton. He won a close split decision, and if I remember correctly, most people that I saw were on the opposite end of that. I don't know if that's – you guys feel free. I know that was only like 2 months ago or something. It was
I
super
recent. For Shelton, I think.
It was super recently. And I have I think a judicious amount of respect for Eric Shelton in general. He fought Alexander Pantoja to a really close fight. But he is not like some guy. Eric Shelton is not a world beater. He's not super good. And I think that Davison Alcantara might actually end up being good. He beat the hell out of Marco Antonio Beltran.
Is Alcantara his nickname?
What?
Is Alcantara his nickname? I know some Brazilian fighters, you look like Formiga, for example, Formiga's not actually his real name. Figueiredo, is that, I would imagine that's his real name, and Alcantara maybe a nickname. I don't know.
I thought Alcantara, maybe Alcantara's his middle name. Hold on. It's his middle name. It's Davison Alcantara Figueiredo.
Okay.
His nickname is Daico, Daico. But yeah, so Davison, however you pronounce that. I don't know. I was just more impressed by his debut than I was by Jared Brooks. The one thing Jared Brooks that I really like about him is in his like UFC pre thing, like promo package stuff that he does. And they always ask him like, "What does it mean to you to fight in the UFC?" And people are like, "Everything means everything. Like this is my dream, so I've wanted forever." And Jared Brooks' answer is, "It doesn't really mean anything to me unless I win the title." And I respect the hell out of that answer. I think it's on point, really good work. Jared Brooks might show up, might impress. He's young, he can make big leaps in progression, but he's got a way smaller reach advantage, and I think the wrestling's going to even itself out enough that Figueiredo might be able to work takedowns on him, or just keep it standing and use that reach to his advantage, pepper him with shots on the outside. We'll see. I think this fight's really a coin flip, so I'm taking the underdog for funsies. Give me Figueiredo.
I like that pick. I was back and forth on this one too. I noticed kind of watching a lot of Devison's, I don't know the best way to say his name, but I guess Alcantara, some of his film, he's a really powerful striker. He's got a lot of power behind his hands. And he also moves really well, especially in the opening rounds, but then he tends to kind of slow down as the fight progresses. We kind of saw a little hint of fatigue in his fight with Marco Beltran, not a whole lot, but then again, his power was able to keep him through. I think he rocked him in the late half of the second round, or like a minute before the fight was over, and then he ended up getting a victory there by, I think, a doctor's stoppage. Jared Brooks actually missed his last fight, the one that was kind of controversial with the Eric Shelton situation, but I know that he's pretty relentless with his takedowns, and I think that seeing Devison's like film, he hasn't really ever been tested by a guy that likes to grapple or likes to wrestle with him. And I think that Jared Brooks might be the guy that can do it. I know that he's a lot smaller of an athlete in comparison, but I do think that Brooks, he's pretty aggressive here and there. If he can get inside and avoid some of the power shots that Devison has, I think he can score those takedowns and get enough to where he'll be able to squeak out a decision. This is the kind of fight I feel like could be one of the splits that we'll see, just because I feel like, as you mentioned, Jed, it kind of evens out with the striking game of Devison, but then the wrestling of Brooks. But I think that Brooks might be able to pull this one out. So I'm going to take Brooks. I'll say it's split decision. I feel like that this is just the kind of fight we'll see another one.
Yeah, this is going to be a really close fight, and it's a somewhat important fight at flyweight. Both guys are undefeated. Figueiredo is 12-0. Brooks is 13-0. Both guys, Brooks I wasn't super impressed with. I was expecting more out of his debut. On the other hand, Figueiredo did really well in his debut, finishing Marco Beltran in the second. But I think the winner of this could go on to bigger and better things. Not immediately, not right away, but I think, down the road, I think we could see the guy who comes out on top here. Should, he keep on winning, I think this could be a future top 15 opponent or fighter. I am going to go with Jed here. I'm going to go with the slight underdog in Devisson Figueiredo. I was mostly just because I was more impressed with his debut than I was with Brooks's. Brooks, he didn't. I don't know what it was, but Shelton just looked better. He looked better on the feet. He outpointed Brooks on the feet. Brooks was able to land a number of takedowns, hold Shelton down throughout the fight, but really close fight. But I feel like Shelton did a bit more. Figueiredo, there's nothing to complain about his debut. I know the competition level was slightly different. I would favor Eric Shelton all day over Marco Beltran, but I see something a bit more special in Figueiredo. I wish Brooks does turn into something, because I think he is sort of what the flyweight division needs. Flyweights always talk, we need a Conor McGregor in the 125-pound division. It seems like Jared Brooks, personality-wise, could be that guy, but I'm not sure he ever makes it there skill-wise. I'm going to go Figueiredo. I think he's a slightly better grappler. I think he hits a bit harder on the feet, and I think he's a more technical striker. Wrestling advantage to Brooks, but Figueiredo, of course, no slouch on the mat whatsoever. I think Figueiredo is a bit more well-rounded. I'm going to go with him, the slight underdog here. I'll call a split decision. I think it's going to be really close like Wes, but I'm going the other way with Devisson Figueiredo, again by split decision. We move on to the FS2 prelim starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. First fight on the four-fight prelim card is Iluzu Zaleski dos Santos taking on Max Payne Griffin at the welterweight division. Zaleski dos Santos is from Brazil. He's 17-5. He's on quite the streak. He's won a few in a row. And Griffin has, I think, won his last one fight. I could be
No, he lost to Colby Covington before that.
And in his last fight, he lost to Colby Covington.
Knocked out Eric Montano.
That's right. Really good performance against Montano. From the States, who do you got here, Griffin or Zaleski dos Santos?
It's a close one, man. Mainly because we really haven't seen a ton of Max Griffin. Colby Covington did his thing against him, beat him down, and then it only took him like a minute or something to get Montano out of there. Whereas we've seen a lot more of, I'm going to butcher his name, Iluzu Zaleski dos Santos.
That was a lot better than me.
But the thing about what we've seen from ZDS is he has won a lot of really close decisions. He doesn't have like a great finishing ability to him. I can't speak a ton to his pre-UFC career in Jungle Fight. I'm sure he was extremely good at finishing Jungle Fight fighters. But since he showed up here, does he have? I don't even know. I don't think he has any finishes.
He knocked out Omar Akhmedov in the third round in April 2016. That was the Dos Santos Rothwell card.
I don't even remember that. Yeah, he's just not. I mean, his last fight, I thought Lyman Good beat him at the Wyman Gaslam fight card back in July. Before that, Keita Nakamura, who I think is like a well-respected veteran. I think there was a credible argument that Nakamura won 2 of the rounds. I think I don't remember these type of fights that well. But I do I get that Zaleski wins that fight, but I think that that's a closer fight. Omar Akhmedov was a third round TKO. I don't remember much of that. And then he lost to Nicholas Dalby, who's not a terrible fighter, but he's also Nicholas Dalby. So it's an interesting thing to me. I think Max Griffin has a higher ceiling in that he's got power, he's got the ability to finish a thing. I think Max Payne is a good name. And so if somebody's going to get a stoppage here, it's going to be Griffin. It's just a matter of whether he gets that or whether ZDS is able to navigate the whole time around it and kind of equal out on the scorecards. And just because I like the higher prospect, I like the higher potential for violence in one of these guys. So give me Max Griffin. I don't think ZDK is going to do a Colby Covington on him and take him down a bunch. So I think Max Griffin's power on the feet is going to be a game changer and get him an early knockout. Max Griffin by KO.
I'm going Max Griffin as well on this one. I don't know if he's the underdog or not, but I think he's got a good thing coming for him. I think the loss to Colby Covington was the big thing in this game. He had only had a couple other losses beforehand. One was to Chidi Njokuani back in Tachi, where I think Chidi won, but I feel like I watched that fight, or I've seen a fight, and I thought that Max Griffin did win. Maybe that was one where there was a little controversy behind it. I don't know. But then again, a loss to Colby Covington isn't too bad, especially when you get taken down repetitively like you did. I think that he was able to probably learn a little bit more from that. I did see that actually Griffin fought on The Ultimate Fighter Season 16. That's one thing I had no clue. And he lost to Matt Secor in a third-round submission. But then again, that was 2012, so we're looking at now, and Griffin has looked pretty impressive in some of his most recent fights. His last 2 victories both coming by knockout. Zaleski dos Santos, I wanted to pick him, but then again, sometimes you mentioned the finishing ability. It's not really fully there. He does have a lot of power. I mean, he might be one of the heaviest hitters in the weight class, but he doesn't utilize it too much, especially with his punches. He throws a lot of outside leg kicks, and that's kind of what he does most of the fight. He doesn't really look for a whole lot of volume behind his punches. And the times that he does is sometimes a little bit sloppy, but then the power gets him in the fights he needs to when he came back and defeated Omar Akhmedov in their fight. I'm going to go with Max Griffin in this one. I think that he might be able to just be the more clean and technical striker on the feet. And I think that we'll just see Elizeu Zaleski look for the kicks a little bit more than the punches. And I think Max Griffin is going to be able to maybe score a takedown on there too. Not really sure if he looks for them a whole lot in those fights, but I think that he may be able to get a decision in this one. So I'm going to take Max Griffin over Dos Santos, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dos Santos is going to be able to pull off a victory here.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with the slight betting favorite here, Zaleski Dos Santos, ZDS for short. I'm a big Max Griffin guy. I picked him in both his UFC fights. Obviously the Colby Covington fight was a bit bizarre, I guess, to pick Griffin in, but nonetheless, learned my lesson. The thing I think here, I just sort of look at Zaleski Dos Santos, and he's the guy I seem to always fade. Keita Nakamura, I thought would beat him. Then I picked Lyman Good just a few months ago. And, well, Dos Santos pulled off a split decision. I probably picked Omar Akhmedov over him. I'm not sure if I've ever picked to lose Zaleski Dos Santos. I don't know what it is about him. But I've always been somewhat impressed with him. I thought he actually beat Nicholas Dalby in his debut in May 2015. For some reason, I actually kind of remember that fight. He looked good against Omari. I think that was a bit of a come from behind win. Keita fight was close. Lyman Good fight was close, hence the split decision. I don't like always picking guys that go to splits and close decisions over like a knockout artist like Max Griffin is. But here I think Dos Santos can be a slightly more technical on the feet. Griffin is quite wild. He's a lot more powerful than Dos Santos, but that doesn't always mean he's a more technical striker. If he lands on Dos Santos, Zaleski Dos Santos is probably going out. But Dos Santos has decent movement. He is in general a pretty good fighter. I don't see him going super far here, but or in the division, I should say, not here. But here I like him. I like Zaleski Dos Santos against Max Griffin. I think he can outpoint Griffin on the feet, and we see wrestling, I think, on occasion from him. I think that could be a possibility. He's not, as Jed said, he's not going to Colby Covington Max Griffin, but I think there's a possibility for a takedown here or there. So Dos Santos, we've seen a bit more from him. Griffin has been out a little while too. He's been injured. Give me Zaleski Dos Santos by close decision. Would not surprise me at all if Max Griffin pulls it off by knockout, though. Next up, we got Hakran Diaz taking on Jared Gordon in the lightweight division. Gordon, his debut was at featherweight, was it not?
I have no idea.
Michelle Canona's
149 catchweight belt.
Oh, he missed weight, I believe. Or his other
by 3 pounds.
Gordon missed by 3 pounds?
Did.
Well,
Okay,
technically by 4 pounds because it's 145.
Fair enough. Well, Gordon's debut was at 145. Missed weight is a catchweight. Hakran Diaz is also moving up. So both guys are moving up, sort of interestingly, from featherweight to lightweight. So the size won't be a big issue for a featherweight moving up to lightweight like it sometimes is, just because both guys are moving up at the same time. Hakran Diaz from Brazil, 23-5-1. Jared Flash Gordon, 13-1 from United States of America. Jed, Diaz or Gordon, the slight betting favorite?
Another really good, interesting, close, kind of competitive fight here. Hakran Diaz has been hanging around the UFC for a while now. He's got some good wins under his belt. If you just at a glance look at his record, you see that basically every good fighter he fought, he lost to. Ricardo Lamas, Cub Swanson, Andre Feely, kind of on the border there, Nick Lensto. Like, that's losing to those guys is nothing to be ashamed of in general. And especially when you consider, like, Ricardo Lamas is right there, still a perennial top guy, and there's a credible case to say that Hakran Diaz beat him. And he beat Darren Elkins, who probably is coming off one of the comebacks of the year when he knocked out Mirsad Bektic in the 3rd round. So, like, this is a guy who can fight. Hakran Diaz is a veteran, and he's going to bring a veteran's game to the table here. And this is really going to be a fight to see what Jared Gordon's got at this stage in his career. We're not talking about a super young prospect. He's coming up on 30, but he's still youngish in the game in general. Coming up to the toughest division, though. These guys moving to lightweight, I mean, I'm fine with it, but I don't know that I think they could have maybe made more hay. The winner of this could have made more hay at featherweight. at lightweight, it's such a deep division. I'm not sure either of them are going to accomplish anything. But yeah, for me, I'm going to side with Hakan Diaz here for a couple of reasons. One, the experience. I do really like that. Jared Gordon, his initial performance over Michel Quinones was a great showing. That's that's what you want to see there. Came out, won the fight, but he's still pretty new. Hakan Diaz has been there against the best in the world, and the big difference here is I think Hakan Diaz can control the wrestling a little more. Jared Gordon is a brown belt under John Danaher. He's a fucking demon on the mat. You don't want to go there. But I'm not sure that he can get Hakan Diaz down. He's got a pretty solid takedown defense. And then it becomes a question of a striking affair. Jared Gordon probably can win the striking affair if he gets stuck up there. And maybe I'm talking myself out of this, but I think I just like Hakan Diaz's ability to maybe dictate the fight, work takedowns on Jared Gordon some, mix it up, and kind of just have enough veteran savvy to edge out the young buck coming up. So give me Hakan Diaz for my third underdog pick in a row, by the way.
I like that pick. I've been back and forth on this one too. It was another really close one. But in the end, I've kind of been going with Jared Gordon. I like where he's coming from. He's had a good record. His only loss on his record, I think, came by some eye injury back in 2015. Jeff Lentz is who he fought. And but since, he's always looked really good in his performances. He's known a lot for his wrestling, very good at top control once he's able to get you down and on your back. Hakan Diaz, one of the reasons I didn't and I'm not picking him in this fight is because for just two reasons. The first reason being, and this, it's probably not the best reason, but Andre Fili was able to take him down. Andre Fili is not really the best wrestler in the world. And also we've seen some guys previously, like Ricardo Lamas, a guy who likes to keep it on the feet here and there sometimes too, but Nick Lentz back in the day, these guys were able to get him down. And I think that Jared Gordon's wrestling is very, very good. We've seen it utilized quite a bit in some of his older fights, and also in his UFC debut where he fought Michel Quinones and was able to just relentlessly be able to take him down and land some brutal ground and pound. And I'm not really sure how Hakan Diaz is going to do if he's able to get up from that, but I do think that Jared Gordon has the abilities to be able to get him down off his back. And I also think that his striking is a little bit better, a lot more powerful and a little bit more quicker than Hakan Diaz. The second reason that I was going to be picking Jared Gordon is because Hakan Diaz hasn't fought recently. His last fight came October 1st, 2016 against Andre Fili, and his last victory came in June of 2015 over Levan Makashvili, who's no longer in the UFC but still doing pretty good work in his organization. But it's been a while. I'm not really sure how layoff's going to handle for Hakan Diaz. Definitely, though, does have the skill advantage, so maybe he can pull something out, and maybe he's able to get Jared Brooks down, or I keep saying Jared Brooks, but Jared Gordon down. I just think that Jared Gordon is going to be able to keep this one defensively where he wants it and offensively take it wherever he wants it. So I think Jared Gordon is going to be able to pull off a victory here by decision. Don't really think he could get a finish. Hakan Diaz is a very durable fighter, has never lost by strikes before or by submission. I think he's only lost by decisions in his career. So I'm going to stick with Jared Gordon in this one by a decision.
Yeah, I like the slight favorite here in Jared Flash Gordon as well. I'm pretty high on Hakan Diaz in general. The Andre Fili loss was kind of eye-opening just because that had happened years ago, and not so much because Fili was still, okay, this guy's going to go far. Sort of slowed down just because Fili has been up and down, up and down, up and down, losing to Pepe, losing to so-and-so, beating so-and-so, losing. He just lost to Qatar, just got back in the winning column. You sort of get the point. But that was actually a really big win for Fili. But nonetheless, Diaz is still a pretty solid fighter. He's good on the mat. He's, I guess, okay on the feet. He can stand with fighters without getting completely knocked out, for example. But his strength isn't certainly the striking department. My one concern, or one of the concerns I have with Diaz is if he's still training at Nova União. It seems like everybody from Nova União is going down. Maybe that's just because Brown's been out of his prime for a while now, and Jose Aldo, same situation. But the two kings of Nova, it seems, have just really fallen off their pedestal. And Gudea, she left, but I mean, I guess that's not relevant because she left. But just seems like Noviano is not what it once was, and if Diaz is still there, I don't know. Maybe that has an impact on that, on the fight. You never know. Gordon is good. He made his debut. Big step up in competition for sure. Biggest fight of his life, absolutely. From Michelle Canones to Hakran Diaz, not really comparable, but I think he does shine here. I like him to get the job done. Shine, hence his name, Flash, of course. He's better on the feet than Diaz. I think he's quite a bit more powerful than Diaz. I don't think he gets a knockout. Diaz rarely is finished. And he is good at wrestling. Diaz is a great grappler, but as Wes mentioned, and something I kind of forgot about just because Diaz hasn't fought in so long, about a year and a bit, a year and a month, is Fili was able to take Diaz down. And Fili, although he does train at Team Alpha Male, so that counts for something, he's not a natural wrestler. That's not his bread and butter. So Gordon, being a decent wrestler himself, could take Diaz down. I think the same reverse. I think vice versa. Diaz could get Gordon down as well. I think wrestling's close. I think grappling to Diaz, and I think striking all day to Gordon. I like Gordon. I think he has the slight advantage here. He's a lot more active as well. Landed per minute for significant strikes. 2.07 Diaz and 7.13 Gordon. So I like Jared Gordon. I think it'll be pretty close. I don't think we see a stoppage, but give me Gordon by unanimous decision. Next up, we got a middleweight fight between Antonio Carlos Jr., Shoeface himself, taking on Jack the Hammer Marshman. Carlos Jr., of course, is from Brazil. He's been on a bit of a tear. I know he's been up and down since winning the Ultimate Fighter, but he is coming off a few straight victories. Eric Spicely, of course, the notorious fight where Wes and I picked Spicely and Jed laughed at us, and he also beat Marvin Vettori in December. Marshman has lost a couple in a row. He lost to Thiago Santos. No, he's actually coming off the win over, what is his name? BC, Canadian guy. Don't recall. Doesn't matter. Jed, Carlos Jr., Marshman, who do you like here?
What did I laugh at you about? I wasn't paying attention.
We picked, both Wes and I picked Eric Spicely over Carlos Jr.
Fucking morons. Jesus. It's a good thing you guys keep me around to make sure y'all are not dumb. What am I doing here? Oh, Shoeface. Yeah, Shoeface gonna win because he's way better. I don't think we need to actually say some more about this fight. Jack Marshman got taken down a shit ton by Magnus Siedenblad. Shoeface is at least as good a wrestler and about 1 billion times better on the floor. Frankly, if this stays on the feet, it's not like Shoeface is super outmatched there. It's going to be quick work. Shoeface by sub first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I don't have much to add on this one. I'm going the exact same way. Jack Marshman is not a bad fighter on the feet in the opening rounds, but he does not have some good cardio at all. Really fades, and also his takedown defense is extremely, extremely poor, especially knowing the fact that Siedenblad was able to get him down as many times as he had in their fight. ACJ is just a much better fighter. Honestly, I wouldn't give him the advantage on the feet, but I think that he could definitely hang with Marshman on the feet if he wasn't able to get him down. But he's definitely going to be able to get Marshman down to this one. I have a second-round submission picked for ACJ.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty clear pick here. I've never been incredibly high on Carlos Jr., and I've paid for that. Just his last couple fights, I think I've picked against him, of course. As I said, the memorable Eric Spicely fight. I also thought Marvin Vettori would beat him. I was smart enough to pick him against Leonardo Augusto Leleco. And, of course, I was
good work
all wrong with the Dan Kelly fight. Kevin Casey, I don't even remember him from there, whatever. I actually picked Eddie Gordon against him. That's hilarious. And maybe even Pound Cummins. Well, actually, that would have paid off. But whatever, doesn't matter. I'm going through Shoeface's entire career. He's the better grappler. Marshman got taken down, as you said, a lot in his debut, in which he won and ultimately looked all right. And we sort of thought, hey, maybe a new European middleweight contender. But no. Fun fight with Thiago Santos in his second last fight, but ultimately got knocked out pretty brutally in the second round and is coming off the win over Ryan James. I actually missed that fight, but I recall it being a lot closer than it probably should have been. I like Shoeface here. I think he'll tap Marshman out. Let's go second round. Shoeface, I mean, the thing with Shoeface is that he doesn't – it's not like he takes you down an instant tap. He takes his time. The Eddie Gordon fight was third round, the Lecco third round. Sometimes he's underwhelming. It might go the distance for all we know, but I'll go second round for Carlos Jr. Next up, we got a welterweight match, and one of the better matchups stylistically on the card. I think this could be fireworks. We got Vicente, the silent assassin Luque, taking on Nico, the hybrid Price. Jed, Luque, or Price?
Good fight. Tough for me to call. Both guys have looked pretty good, like in their UFC careers. I know Luque's coming off that loss to Edwards in his last go around, but like Leon Edwards is a really good fighter, so I don't think there's any shame in that. In particular, sorry, I don't know why words are escaping me at this moment. And he took a round off Leon Edwards. I'm big on Leon Edwards. I'm actually fairly big on Vicente Luque. Not as big on Nico Price. Knocking out Alan Shaban that's a good win. That's a statement win for reals. What happened in Alex Morono fight? I'm looking over his record
He popped for weed. He knocked Morono out and popped for weed.
Oh, he's a cheater then. He's just a cheater. Tapping out Brandon Thatch is, I think you could tap out Brandon Thatch. It's just everybody who can fight can tap out Brandon Thatch apparently. So no real credit for that one. But it's a damn close fight. For me, I think, I don't know. Beating Blake, it seems like having a close fight with Leon Edwards, beating Bilal Muhammad, who can fight Hector Urbina, who's like, I'm not gonna out here and pretend like he's great, but he ain't like the worst. The Michael Graves loss is not your favorite thing in the world. Hader Hassan is is a whatever win really, but really beating Bilal Muhammad, that's a legit win. I think a lot of Bilal Muhammad, and he's just a younger guy. I think that he can use his wrestling and will use his wrestling more effectively. I think he can take Nico Price down. I'm not sure Price is going to venture to do the same here. So I think he's got maybe just a couple more tools in the box. Close fight. Give me Vicente Luque. Who's the favorite? Luque is the favorite by a little bit, and that seems about right to me. Yeah, give me Luque to win. Close one.
I am really excited for this fight. I've been back and forth on it too, just because I feel like both have abilities to where they can get finishes, but it's funny because I think Nico Price is still undefeated. Vicente Luque has been submitted a couple times, but he's never been knocked out. But we've seen Vicente Luque in some of his scraps just get some brutal knockouts, especially the Hector Urbina and Bilal Muhammad one. The Bilal Muhammad was probably his best victory in his mixed martial arts career, besides the win over Thiago Santos back in the day. And I'm pretty high on Bilal Muhammad. I think I've picked Bilal in every single fight. I love the guy, but Luque was able to go in there, and when I feel like you enter the pocket with Luque, especially when you're trading shots like that, you're going to lose. And I'm a little bit curious to see how Nico Price is going to do with that, because he likes to keep. He's pretty good with taking fights to the ground and getting submissions. We've seen in some of his recent fights, but he loves to stand and bang on the feet and loves to look for long, kind of overhand left punches, and also just kind of try to look for the right hand as well. I think this is a hard one to call. I've wanted to go Price. I think I put him on my DraftKings team because I do think that he has the advantage to win this fight if it goes to a decision. But then again, I'm thinking if Nico wants to keep this fight on the feet and scrap with Vicente Luque, I think Luque's got the extremely advantage, or an advantage at least in his power, to be able to get a knockout victory in this one. Even though Nico has never been finished, I feel like Luque's, he's got mad power. He finished Muhammad, who had never been knocked out before or finished in his mixed martial arts career. So I'm going to go with what my initial gut was, and I'm going to pick Vicente Luque. I know he's going to have the hometown advantage in this one, and Nico Price is a pretty tough guy. He does have quite a bit of finishes, but I think that Nico, if he keeps this one on the feet or if he trades with Luque, I think Luque is going to be able to get a finish in this one. Could go the other way around. I don't know how Luque's chin is. Edwards was able to put Leon Edwards, that is, was able to put a good amount of shots on him. But I'm thinking Luque can get this one done. He's a pretty exciting guy to watch. I think this will be a pretty exciting fight, even if they don't finish each other and this one goes to like a decision or something. I think this might be a fight of the night contender. But I'm going to go Vicente Luque, a trading in the pocket knockout in either the first or second round.
This is a really close fight, and this is why I like this particular episode of the show, because we're actually disagreeing. It's not boring. I'm going to go Nico Price. I like Nico Price a little bit here, not a lot. I was high on Vicente Luque. The Leon Edwards loss sort of a bit off-putting or offsetting. I don't even know what the word is. But, I have to think and realize, okay, losing to Leon Edwards is not that bad. Edwards is legitimately a top 20 welterweight and could be top 15 if he does get a big fight. Nico Price, though, has been really surprising. I mean, knocking out Alan Jouban when people simply thought Jouban was on a different level, that's good. I mean, Luque knocking out Bilal Muhammad was also a great win and arguably even better. But I guess you can make the case, okay, Jouban beat Muhammad, MMA math at its finest. What's the better win? I guess knocking out Jouban. But I think that fight could play out different if it happened now. I mean, a year and a half later, who knows? But I think Price is a little bit more reliable. Before Luque lost to Leon Edwards, I thought this guy was the next big thing almost. Maybe not quite, but I was really high on him. And then you realize, okay, don't go that far ahead of yourself. Slow down a little bit. He's not as good as I might have thought. Right now, I like Price a lot. He's 3-0 in the UFC, all 3 finishes. Forget the marijuana suspension. I like Nico Price. He kind of a weird fighter. He's lanky. He's a bit longer than Luque, not a lot, just 1 inch. So that's not going to be a big deal. But she has his shoulder blade.
You'll find this out later in life, Nicholas, but 1 inch matters.
Fair enough.
Feeling really good about that one, boys.
As I choke on some spit, that's where we're going to end it. Price, his shoulder blades are they're incredible. They're just amazing. Like, how can you have that sharp of shoulder blades? I don't know. Tough fight. I think Luque is a bit sharp on the feet, but I think my gut feeling is Price lands something. I think Price lands something big. He finds the Price, and I think he gets the job done. Give me Nico Price by first round knockout, going on a bit of a limb, because I don't think anyone starts Luque like that, but there's a first for everything, and that first will be this weekend. Give me Nico Price by knockout in round number 1. Next up, we got the FS1 main card, 6 fights at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. We start out with a banger of a bantamweight matchup between John Hands of Stone Lineker, the return of the king, finally. He's taking on up-and-comer Marlon Chito Vera. In Brazil, we got Lineker, Brazilian, Vera, Ecuador, 29-8, 10-3-1. Lineker, of course, has not fought since its TJ Dillashaw loss in December of last year. Vera has been on a bit of a winning streak, winning over Brad Pickett, Brian Kelleher recently, on a bit, I think 3 in a row, maybe 4. Guy seems a bit underrated, but this is a big, huge step up in competition. Apparently, Lineker said earlier today or the other day that the reason this fight is happening is because everyone else didn't want to fight him. So that sort of explains this odd matchmaking. Jed, Lineker, big favorite here, or do you think Chito might pull something off?
No, come on, John Lineker's winning this fight, and we don't have to talk that much about this one. It's like the Shoeface fight. Like, Shoeface is going to take him down and sub him. John Lineker is going to walk him down and punch him in the stomach until he falls over. Maybe once he starts bending over lower because his guts are all bleeding on the inside and he's dying a slow, painful death, then Lineker will make it a fast, brutal death and just punch him in the head until he falls over unconscious. But there's only one way this fight ends, and it's with John Lineker standing over the lifeless corpse that used to be whoever the fuck this guy is he's fighting. Marlon Vera. That's done, right? This is Marlon Vera, right? Who's he fighting?
Yeah. It's Marlon Vera.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, dude, Chito was getting fucking tooled up by Brad Pickett before the 3rd round, and Brad Pickett is extremely veteran, but Brad Pickett don't got the hands of Johnny Lineker. So John Lineker by violent ways and means and ends. John Lineker all day.
I'm a big Cheetah Vera fan. I've always liked the guy, but there's no way he's going to get this one. John Lineker's too much of an athlete, I think. I don't think that Vera really has a whole lot going for him unless he's able to somehow get on top of Lineker, but that's never going to happen. Lineker is very good at defending takedowns. We didn't see too much of it in his last fight with TJ Dillashaw, but that's because he's just a lot slower and also was just a little bit too aggressive in that fight. And I think having a year off, a little bit over a year, I think, from having competed and focusing on that loss, just under a year, just having some time right there to kind of think about how we lost to TJ. I think that's a good guy to lose to just because he's one of the top three in the division, competing up there between himself, Cody Garbrandt, and Dominic Cruz. I guess Jimmy Rivera's in there too now. So just kind of seeing that and being able to work off that, I feel like is a lot better than probably riding a 3-fight win streak over guys who aren't even ranked in the top 15. Even though Vera's wins have looked pretty impressive, the way that he's done them, not too much in the Brad Pickett win because he was getting pieced up in the first couple rounds and got a comeback knockout there in like the last minute and a half. I think that this is just a clear-cut victory for John Lineker. Vera's never been finished before by strikes. He's been submitted a couple times. Lineker has some submissions on his record, a couple guillotine chokes. But I think that Lineker is going to be the first guy to knock out Marlon Vera. So I've got a second-round knockout picked for John Lineker.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how Marlon Cheeto Vera can win. I don't think he can. Hands it stone, John Lineker all day. Not much else needed. The guy is one of the best bantamweights on the planet. Top 5, top 6, top 7, wherever you want to put him, he's a killer. And he can knock out anybody on any given day. The guy has literally hands for stone. And I'm not sure Cheeto. Well, he's certainly expecting what he knows what he's going to get, but I think it'll still throw him off guard. It's, whenever this is a huge step up. If we're being honest, this is kind of unnecessary, honestly. I guess the only explanation is that no one else wanted to fight Lineker. And again, can't really blame those people for that. It's not always the prettiest thing fighting John Lineker, I would imagine. Don't have firsthand experience. Don't ever want to. Lineker, the guy's really good. He's super aggressive. Sometimes that costs him, if you can score a quick takedown on him. I don't think Cheeto's that much quicker than him. Dillashaw was, and that's a big thing in that matchup. But also Dillashaw is not anywhere close to Vera. He's much, much better, of course. Vera maybe can take him down and get on top. I just don't really see that happening. I don't know how. He's a bit bigger, not by a ton. Height 5 inches, that's actually significant. 3-inch reach. Not really. Not else. There's nothing else to say. Lineker should be able to finish him, I would imagine. Vera doesn't get knocked out, or he hasn't. But as I've said earlier, there's a first for everything, and I think John Lineker probably puts him away midway through the fight. Next up, we got a middleweight fight between Thiago de Lima Moreta Santos taking on Jack the Joker Hermanson. Jed, Thiago Santos from Brazil or the Swede Hermanson? Who do you got?
Close fight. I've been kind of weighing back and forth on how I want to approach this. I think you guys probably know by now because we've talked about him a bunch. I'm a big Jack Hermanson guy. I'm in on what he's bringing to the table. His weird, slightly better than average cardio kickboxing routine, with a little bit of pop in his punches. I always am a sucker for people that came through the Venator cage because I think Venator's hilarious. And he's kind of ticking those boxes. Thiago Santos has impressed, though, in general, in his UFC career. Losing to Gabriel Mazzassi, no shame in that. Losing to Eric Spicely is a little bit real bad. Not even, it's a little bit really bad to do that thing. Especially as he was enormous favorite over Spicely and then just got choked out, which was weird, but rebounded with wins over Marshman, who we talked about earlier this evening, and Gerald Mearshart, who's a solid fighter. And if you look at the names on his resume, the guys who have beat the the guys Thiago Santos has beaten, a lot of them sort of fit into a similar kind of profile that Hermanson brings. Like Elias Theodorou is sort of fights in a similar style here, and Thiago Santos was able to navigate that appropriately. So it gives me caution, because I also think there's probably a bit of an athletic gap here. I think Thiago Santos is probably a little bit better of an athlete, just raw physicality wise. Not that Jack Hermanson is terrible in that regard, but I think Santos probably has more power, more thudding pop on the feet than Hermanson. But Hermanson is going to bring more. He's going to throw more volume, be a little crisper, work in takedowns, whereas Thiago Santos is not prone to do that all that often. And conversely, I don't think even if Santos wanted to work takedowns, I'm not sure that he could reliably get Jack Hermanson down. I don't know that Hermanson can get Santos down. I don't think it's all that likely either, but maybe just the threat of a takedown is enough to open up some more things on the feet. I think it's a really close fight. If you want to pick Thiago Santos, I'm not going to fault you on it. I'm sorely tempted by it, and basically I'm trying to talk myself into picking him again so I can just keep picking underdogs. I think I've picked like 5 on the card already or something, but I can't quite do it. The volume of Hermanson, the fact that he's going to be able to keep this fight on the feet and maybe get a takedown in there as well, I think he's just going to be able to score more points and avoid anything super damaging coming on the back end from Thiago Santos. So give me Hermanson on points in a really fun fight.
I've been back and forth on this one. I feel like I've said that on almost every fight because they're all so close. But Jack Hermanson, however you want to say, he's a pretty good athlete. He has 3 losses on his record. One was to Cesar Vieja, where Cesar was just able to take him down and submit him. The other was back to Jason Butcher, who's still a fantastic athlete. And that was back in Bellator back in the day. So 2 guys who aren't bad fighters at all. Still doing pretty good work, but Hermanson exceeds when he's able to get his opponents down and on the back, and we saw that in the last 2 fights with Alex Nicholson and Brad Scott. I'm thinking if he can get Thiago Santos down in this one, I don't see Thiago Santos being able to stand back up to his feet because he's not really the best at standing up from positions when he's on his back. Tends to struggle a little bit. We saw Eric Spicer be able to capitalize on that in their fight. I don't know if Uriah Hall took him down at all in their fight, but Hall was able to put a good volume on him there. With a broken toe, I might add. Thiago Santos has been finished a few times. Jack Hermanson, I believe, has been just submitted a couple times. Thiago Santos, I don't think will ever be able to submit anybody in his UFC career. I think Thiago's going to have probably a lot more people cheering him on, of course, than Jack Hermanson, but I'm going Hermanson as well in this one. I actually think that Hermanson's going to be able to get this one down to the ground and maybe stop Thiago Santos with strikes, and that's kind of what I've been leaning to. So I actually have Hermanson picked by a second-round TKO. Not on the feet. I think that Thiago Santos will have the advantage if this one stays standing. But I do think if Hermanson gets it down, he's going to be able to get a ground-and-pound stoppage, and I think that'll come in the second round.
Another close fight, as we all sort of mentioned. We're saying that for most of these, there's very little.
Wait, who did you pick? Sorry.
Hermanson.
There's very little big favorites. John Lineker, Shu faces sizable favorite, just to name a couple of the, 2 of the very few. Another close one. Thiago Santos, he's better on the feet. He hits a lot harder, and ultimately that's why I favor him against Jack Hermanson. Hermanson has been doing really well. 2 straight first-round finishes. Granted, I think Thiago Santos is better than both Alex Nicholson for sure and Bradley Scott by quite a bit as well. Hermanson, he looked good. He's done well in the UFC in general. He hasn't done nearly as he's done the best he's ever looked in his last couple of fights. His debut against Scott Askham, decision. Then he got choked out by Cesar Vieja, a bit of a surprising result there. So I tend to believe that his biggest weakness is when someone gets on top of him, he starts to fade late. But that's not going to be a threat here. Thiago Santos will not take Jack Hermanson down, as Wes alluded to. It could be the other way around, and that's how he sees the fight going. I don't think Hermanson has I just don't. I think he'll have the. I think he'll have the incentive to stand and trade with Thiago Santos or try to outpoint him. I think ultimately he might end up realizing, okay, this isn't working. Let's try something else. Maybe he resorts to his wrestling, which probably is a bit better than Santos, but I'm not sure it's good enough to get Santos down. I would imagine Santos has improved on his takedown defense since losses to Eric Spicely and Gegard Mousasi last year, but you never know. It's worth a try from Hermansson. But ultimately, I think this will be a stand-up fight, and I think Santos is a bit more technical. Hermansson is good, but he thrives on top with his ground and pound. That's what we've seen, and he's not great just standing and trading. He's very cardio kickboxing-esque, a good version, I must add. Santos has a lot of power. He's a great kicker. I think he's ultimately going to be able to outpoint Hermansson here on the feet. So give me Thiago Santos in a relatively close decision. Next up, we got a really fun lightweight fight between Francisco Trinaldo and Jim Miller, of course. Two veterans here. Trinaldo, Massaranduba from Brazil. He's 21-5. Miller is 28-10 with 1 no contest. Jed, you like the underdog here in Jim Miller, or do you think Trinaldo gets back into the winning column?
I think that Jim Miller's a really tough guy to get a read on, if we're being honest. Like, I think everybody sort of thought that he was done when the corpse of Diego Sanchez managed to spur into life and take a decision off him. No shame in the Michael Chiesa loss, but, there was a stretch there where he had lost like 4 or 5 in a row, something like that. And it was just like a ton of fights. And then, 200 comes around, he gets the softball fighting Gomi, where, again, Nick, I think you could probably take down and beat Takanori Gomi up at this stage in his career. Got a gift of a decision over Joe Lozon, although I look back over that today, and apparently I was one of like 2 people out of 50 on MMA decisions that scored it for Jim Miller, so clearly I need to go rewatch that fight because I was obviously wrong in my assessment. But then the Thiago Alves fight was a good win. Like, Thiago Alves is a guy who's still a credible welterweight, not like an incredible welterweight, but he also has historically had a skill set that should have troubled Jim Miller a ton. But Jim Miller just kind of went to work, scored a bunch of takedowns, and I think that showed a skill that has developed even more so the older he's gotten. Jim Miller has come into his own as sort of a veteran player in that he always had a really well-composed game of all the constituent parts that are needed, but nothing ever shined. But he's really starting to blend things a lot better. And despite he's had 2 losses after that, but Dustin Poirier is a top 10 lightweight, and he went hammer and tongs with Dustin Poirier. Got one scorecard from the officials. Arguably got several other people scoring with him, scored it for him on the Twitter sphere. And then Anthony Pettis, we all know this kind of the career trajectory Pettis has taken as of late. But the fact that Jim Miller still managed to snake a round out from Pettis, in my opinion, because that's a pretty bad style matchup for him in general. I think that there's more of the same here. Trinaldo, I think, is still a bad style matchup for him, which is unfortunate. But if Jim Miller comes out and just shows some real veteran savvy, takes Francisco Trinaldo into deep water, lets him get tired because he throws these big explosive strikes or whatever, I wouldn't be all that surprised. And Jim Miller is still shoe leather tough, and so he's going to need that because Trinaldo, big time power, big time explosion, big time slams and takedowns. Like, that's what he's doing. He's doing hard. He's doing fast. I'm siding with Trinaldo because even though he's, I think, like 6 years older or something, like he's considerably older. He's a little less shop worn than Jim Miller, who's been around the block for ever and ever and ever. And he's just, I think, like, he's working on a higher athletic level in general. I won't be surprised if Miller can maybe score takedowns. I think he needs takedowns to win the fight. If this stays on the feet, Trinaldo's got too much power. So Miller's going to need to be able to take him down. I think early he's going to struggle because Kevin Lee struggled taking Trinaldo down early. And that's sort of the fight that informs my opinion here. We saw a couple weekends ago, Kevin Lee is one of the 5 best fighters at his weight class, I think. He was inches away from stopping interim lightweight champion Tony Ferguson, despite the fact that he was dealing with staff and had a shitty weight cut and all these things going. Like, this dude's a monster on the ground and a good wrestler, and Trinaldo made him work for that win. So I think Jim Miller's going to have a hard time getting there early. If he can survive and maybe late get there, but I think by that time it's going to be too late. I think Trinaldo's going to have 2 rounds in the bank, and I don't think Jim Miller's going to get a Kevin Lee style fucking massive domination on the mat. So give me Trinaldo with the big power punches and the sprawl and brawl in the first 2 rounds. Maybe Jim Miller makes a bit of a comeback there, but Trinaldo's still going to take a decision.
Yeah, Trinaldo, even with that loss to Kevin Lee, he looked pretty good in that fight and has had a pretty big string of victories there after losing to Chiesa. I think he won about, 2, 4, 6, 7 in a row. And then, like I was saying, looked good in the Kevin Lee fight, but Kevin Lee threw 25 right kicks and finally was able to connect with one, which finally dropped him, and then he was able to get the finish. But Kevin Lee's not a bad guy to lose to, and neither is Michael Chiesa. And those were the last 2 losses. And then I guess one was to, I'm taking a look real quick, Piotr Hallman, who was probably more than likely on some kind of something in that fight back when they fought. But Francisco Trinaldo has looked fantastic. He's a fantastic athlete and in unbelievable conditioning for his age. Kind of has surprised me. He's never fought for anything, but he's honestly in great shape. I think he's almost 39 years old, or he is 39 years old. He'll be 40 soon, which is just crazy because he's still one of the best in the lightweight division. Still putting together really impressive victories. I think that for Trinaldo, there's not really much else I can add, Jed. I feel like you nailed it on the head. Trinaldo's a very powerful guy who likes to go out there, has some looping punches, but has so much power behind his hands. He's able to rock a lot of people, but just isn't really able to find the finish a lot of the times, besides a finish over Chad Lepre. But I think that he's going to go out there, be very aggressive, be able to take Jim Miller down. Jim Miller has the abilities to get some takedowns in there, but his defense isn't the best himself. And sometimes Jim Miller, especially in recent fights, hasn't been able to get a whole lot of takedowns and has been getting taken down by guys who probably shouldn't be taken down by, like Dustin Poirier, a guy who likes to strike. Pettis was able to get him down at one point. Joe Lozon got him down multiple times in their fight. I think that Trinaldo is going to be able to get him down, take the first 2 rounds, slow down maybe in that third, give that one to Jim Miller. What's that in the end? A 29-28 for Francisco Trinaldo. So maybe a close decision there in the end, but I think that Trinaldo is going to be able to get it done with his power and aggressive takedowns.
I'm with both of you here. Give me Francisco Trinaldo by unanimous decision in a somewhat close fight. Clear but close, because I see it going how you guys seeing or have it going as well. I like Trinaldo early, first 2 rounds, and Miller might steal the last round just because Trinaldo maybe doesn't have the best cardio and sometimes starts to fade, although as Wes added, a lot of his recent fights or some of his fights have gone all 3 rounds as well, and ultimately he hasn't looked all that bad. Jim Miller, proven by, the Poirier fight where he didn't, or, the rounds were one at least one round was close, maybe 2. Pettis fight wasn't dominant, and, Miller still hung in there. The guy still has what it takes to be a decent fighter, but other than Trinaldo's loss to Kevin Lee, he is really good. He's arguably top 15, and I'm not quite sure Jim Miller is there anymore. Both guys are vets. Both guys are getting up there in age. Trinaldo is 39. Miller, what is he?
He's 34.
34. So it's incredible just because we're calling Miller the vet, yet Trinaldo is 5 years older than him. Both guys are getting up there, but I guess Trinaldo, Miller has a lot more fight years on him than Trinaldo, a lot more damage. He's been knocked out here and there. Trinaldo, look at his winning streak. Before the Kevin Lee fight, we have Paul Felder, Medeiros, Ross Pearson, Laprise, Norman Park, and then, of course, we have the fights where we didn't realize that's why this guy was going to turn into a top 15 guy. Akbar Arreola, remember him, and, of course, Leandro Silva. I think he's much better on the feet. I think he hits a lot harder. I think he can use his kicks. His punches are pretty good as well. A lot more technical than Jim Miller. Miller can hang with him on the feet, but it'll be pretty clearly Trinaldo with the advantage on the feet. Miller needs takedowns. He could get takedowns. I don't think he will. Maybe one late when Trinaldo starts gassing, but ultimately I think Trinaldo is able to keep this standing where he wants it, and Jim Miller will lose a decision. One last note, Trinaldo, the size doesn't, Miller actually has a reach. That's interesting. And Trinaldo has the height. But what I was going to say was that this is in Brazil. We've seen a lot of decisions, especially earlier on in Trinaldo's 7-fight winning streak, that could have gone the other way. Norman Park really stands out to me, where I think I scored that for Trinaldo, but most people had it going Park's way, and Trinaldo got a split, I think, there. And so Trinaldo in Brazil, the judges seem to like him. So even if round 2 is close, I think it probably will go Trinaldo's way. So give me Trinaldo here by unanimous decision. Next up, we got Pedro Munoz taking on Rob Font, number 12 versus number 13 in the bantamweight division. Pretty important fight. We got two guys. Both are 14-2. The only difference in the records is Munoz has one no contest, which I don't think was in the UFC, so must have been earlier on. Jed, interesting fight. Grappler versus striker. Munoz versus Font. Who do you got?
Munoz versus Font. All right. Also, Nick, check the chat. I sent you a message. Thanks. Munoz versus Font. This is a really good fight, actually. Like, this card is really sneaky great if you are a person who cares a ton about MMA. Not good enough that if you got something else going on your Saturday evening, skip it. But I'm probably gonna miss a lot of this because there will be football that I need to watch. But if you don't, just throw a DVR on it, check it, watch it later, because it's a great card. This fight, honestly, as I looked over it, realized that this is one of the highlights, because both these dudes can bang. Both these dudes are legitimate prospects in their division. I know that they're, I guess maybe not prospects, they're both in the 30 range. But it wasn't that long ago that I picked Rob Font to beat John Lineker in a fight, and then I felt wrong. I felt dumb afterwards, because after that is when I figured out that, John Lineker has the grip, I think not even hyperbolically, the best chin in the history of MMA. It's close. There's some real contenders up there, but John Lineker's chin is, it's hard to describe. For my money, Mark Hunt and Carlos Condit have probably the two best chins in the history of the sport. And I think John Lineker is right there, if not surpassed him at this point, because Rob Font can freaking crack, man. You watch this dude punch, and look at the way George Roop just died. Joey Gomez, Matt Schnell, he just hits people so damn hard. And John Lineker ate those full on the chin and nothing happened. Just no, whatever, dude. He took his best Sunday punch and kept eating through. And you could see that fucked Font up. Font's whole plan was, I'm going to punch him really hard and he's going to fall down. And when he didn't, then Lineker started punching him back, and then Rob Font fell down. That's how that fight ended up breaking down. I think Pedro Munoz is a tough dude. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's maybe had to bear with the type of heat Rob Font's bringing at him. His two losses are to Jimmy Rivera and the Rafael Sunsao fight. There's a no contest with Gerard Sanders. What happened there?
Was it? I don't remember.
Gerard Sanders.
I remember Munoz tapping him out.
I think it got overturned because Munoz tested positive.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I was thinking on a different fight because Munoz fought Doan on the same card. Sanders fought someone else, Aranches, and I always get those fights confused. So that happened earlier.
Testosterone.
Testosterone? Yeah. Okay, well, I was just looking over the record and saw that. I mean, look, if your two losses are to Jimmy Rivera and Rafael Sunsao, those are not bad losses. Conversely, if your loss, Des Green early on in your career, Des Green ended up being a very, very respectable fighter, and your other loss is a decision to John Lineker. These guys are good. Basically, I'm picking Font on the fact that I think he's bringing a little more firepower. He's bringing more volume, a little better defense, huge reach advantage. I think it's 6 or 7 inches. 7 inches. 7 inches is what I'm looking at. Neither guy's going to wrestle a ton. They might throw a shot out or two every once in a while. Neither guy's a particularly great defensive wrestler, so maybe that's an avenue for Munoz to exploit here. But at the end of the day, I just think Font throws more. He throws crisper. He throws with more heat, and he's better on defense. All that adds up to a Font win, and I think he's going to land the big shot in the latter half of the fight, get a round 2 knockout win for Robbie Font.
Yeah, I think Rob Font's going to take this one too. Munoz, he's not a bad fighter by any means. He's actually, super impressive, especially with some of the wins that he gets together. But sometimes, especially like the Justin Scoggins fight, I felt like that was the kind of fight. And I even remember I picked Munoz by a second-round submission, and I picked him because I knew Scoggins was going to make a mistake because he always loves to make mistakes in his fights. And that's how Munoz was able to capitalize. Was losing down on the scorecards, definitely getting outstruck on the feet. Because Scoggins kind of lanky, karate-like stance, and his style in the fight, and he was able to – Scoggins made a mistake, went for a takedown but just a little too forward, and Munoz was able to pull in that guillotine, which is his best submission and one of his best arsenals in this game. Damian Stasiak, he was able to get the victory in that one, but Stasiak was able to get him down a couple times. I feel like Font has the ability to get takedowns if he needs to because he's such a powerful and muscular guy. But also he's got very powerful hands. You're able to see him get so many knockouts on his resume. A very impressive and dominant victory over Douglas Silva de Andrade, who I think only had like one loss before that, or maybe he was undefeated. No, he had one loss, but he was 24-1 and won no contest. And he may have not fought the best competition, but still, Rob Font went out there and dominated from the beginning of the fight to the end. Taken down a couple times, yes, but looked fantastic in the performance. Was able to get a second-round submission. I'm thinking that Rob Font is going to be able to get a pretty decisive victory here in this one. I think Munoz just becomes a little too reliable about waiting for his opponents to go in for the takedowns instead of focusing on what's going on the feet in the present moment, and that's why he loses the fights to fighters who are outstriking him, unless they make a mistake like Scoggins did or Russell Doan in their fight. So I'm thinking Rob Font's going to be able to get this one done. I'm pretty confident in picking him. I think that he could get a knockout victory in this one, but seeing that Munoz has never been finished, has been wobbled a couple times, I think Font does have the abilities to get a knockout, but I'm pretty confident that he's going to get it done. So I went with the decision here for Rob Font.
Another kind of close fight on paper, although I think I'm a bit more confident in my pick here than some of the previous fights we've talked about. Give me Rob Font here. He's a betting favorite, and I think for good reason. He has a massive advantage on the feet. Pedro Munoz, I'm sure he's getting better on the feet, but he's not nearly on Font's level. Font has knockout power. He's technical. He's really everything you want on the feet. He fell to John Lineker in May of 2016, but most people do. I think it was mostly just Lineker's aggression, and he was able to land a bit more. But typically, Font against not top 5 competition, he's really good. And it's funny, just as I was thinking when you guys were talking, I was thinking Rob Font seems like a guy who seems like he should finish but doesn't actually, and I went and checked his record. He actually, all of his UFC wins are by stoppage, so thank God I actually checked it. I don't know why I had the impression he never finishes, but nevertheless he does. And I think he'll get another one here. I like him by second round TKO. I think like one of you guys said, maybe both. Munoz, it has the grappling advantage. He's actually really good on the mat. He's one of the better grapplers probably in the bantamweight division, actually. But I haven't been, super impressed with Munoz. His last fight was a decision over, let's see, who was it again? Over Damian Stasiak. I mean, Brian Keller just tapped him out, and it wasn't incredible. It was clear, but it wasn't, a terrific win by any means. And before that, he tapped out Justin Scoggins. That was impressive, but that was also because Scoggins made a mistake, like he always does, as Wes talked about. Before that, the Russell Doan fight, he wasn't looking too great until getting that submission in the first round, and then from there, it's a little irrelevant because we're talking 2 years back. But his last few fights have all been wins. They've all been clear and relatively dominant. But there's certain things in every fight that makes me think, okay, it's not actually as good as it looks on paper. I've been super impressed with Font. I think this guy is getting better. Not only is he a good striker, but he can win fights by submission, proven by his last fight. I think he picked up a bonus in that one against Douglas Silva de Andrade. The guy is really talented. Working at the City Dong in Boston, doing wonders for him. Give me Rob Font here by second round TKO. I think he lights Pedro Munoz up on the feet. As Jed said, 7-inch reach advantage. I don't know how he doesn't, outpoint Munoz and probably knock him out. Give me Rob Font all day. Next up, we got the co-main event of the evening. Pretty interesting scrap here. We got Damian Maia, former UFC welterweight title challenger, current number 3 contender, taking on Colby Chaos Covington, rising up-and-comer in the 170-pound division. He's currently ranked number 7th. Maia is, of course, from Brazil. He's coming off a loss to Tyron Woodley, the welterweight champion. Covington is coming off a dominant win over Dong Hyun Kim. We got the height. Maia's 2 inches taller. Reach is the same. Leg reach, for what it's worth. I know it matters oh so much. Maia has 1 inch on Covington. Cue Jed's joke. And with that, cue Jed's prediction.
I'm going to regret this. I'm going to do it anyway because I can't in good conscience pick Colby Covington to do anything good because Colby Covington is the worst. Chaos is an absolutely terrible nickname for him. Makes no fucking sense.
Because he doesn't bring chaos to the octagon for anyone that doesn't get it.
No, yeah, he doesn't. He is a extremely straightforward wrestle boxer. He's good at wrestling. That's awesome. I'm not going to denigrate his skill set, but I sort of hate everything about him personally. That's going to temper my pick here 100%. He's a tool online. I don't know if he's actually that way in life or if he is just doing a faux Chael Sonnen, Conor McGregor thing, trying to get noticed. It comes off super terrible, and I hate it, and so I'm not going to pick him. My head says that Colby Covington is a very, very good wrestler and that he should be aware that Damian Maia's one route to victory here is to take him down, and he is good enough on the feet to box up Damian Maia, and so he should be able to disengage and do that. And he has shown really nothing in his fights so far that would make me think that that's not how this fight will break down. But Dong Hyun Kim took him down a couple times. Damian Maia is probably a better wrestler than Dong Hyun Kim in a vacuum. Damian Maia has really tricky, weird shit that he does. His arm drags off of pulled guard and stuff like that. His work on tripod stances. I think Colby Covington is probably going to win realistically, but I'm not going to pick him. Damian Maia's fairy tale has to end sometime. He got his title shot. He's one of the few guys in the world that competed for titles in 2 weight divisions. He's probably the best grappler in MMA history. So, these are all awesome things for him. I thought he won 2 rounds off Tyron Woodley, so that was cool. But I think you could win 2 rounds off Tyron Woodley, Nick, because sometimes he just won't fucking fight. But I think he's going to get it done just because I hate Colby Covington. I think realistically, Damian Maia is old. He doesn't really have much to fight for anymore. He's never working his way back to a title shot. He's never getting a title shot again. We already did that. We're done now. And so his motivation's got to be waning. Colby Covington's good enough to D up the shots and land enough hands on the feet to win a decision. It's going to be sad and miserable. But what's actually going to happen is Damian Maia is going to pull guard, arm drag him, take the back, and choke Colby Covington the fuck out. And maybe he'll shut up on Twitter instead of being like, I'll beat the hell out of you. I'm like, dude, you don't beat the hell out of anybody. You hold them for 15 minutes. It's not that exciting. Just be yourself, man. Don't try too hard. It's okay. You don't have to try too hard. You're never going to be Conor McGregor. So just chill. I hope Damian Maia teaches him that lesson. I don't think he will, but I'm picking him anyway. Damian Maia, submission, 2nd round.
Yeah, Colby.
First round, fuck it. First time he gets him down, I don't give a fuck.
Colby Covington needs to be humbled, man, but it's really unfortunate. Thinking about this realistically, he's got a really good chance to win just because Damian Maia, I don't know how he's going to do off his back if Covington gets him down because I think Covington can get him down. Maybe Maia's going to be able to scramble up and try to take the neck, which is kind of what the outcome is I'm hoping for because I also picked a first-round submission. I just really want Damian Maia to win. But Colby Covington, even in the fight with Dong Hyun Kim, he didn't show the worst striking in the world, and it's something kind of odd because he doesn't usually utilize it a whole lot in his fights. He usually only looks for a lot of punches when he's able to get you down, but he landed some pretty – I mean, if there were no takedowns in that fight, Covington was beating Dong Hyun Kim on the feet, which is pretty sad to say, seeing some of Dong Hyun Kim's wins. But Covington might have the advantage on the feet, I guess, in a sense. I don't know about, I guess, the wrestling. I mean, Covington's definitely the better wrestler, but Maya has the ability to get him down too. If Dong Hyun Kim, you said it, if Dong Hyun Kim can get you down, Demi and Maya can definitely get you down. I don't want to talk about this fight anymore, so I'm just going to say Demi and Maya is going to win by a first-round submission because that's what's going to happen, and chaos will be humbled.
So unlike Jed, you do in fact, in reality, think Maya will win, or are you just saying that because you want him to win?
I want Maya to win, but I think the more likely outcome is definitely Covington by decision.
All right. Well,
and I'll just say this. I think most people aren't picking Covington because they just want Maya to win rather than thinking he's definitely going to steamroll him, because I think if anybody's going to steamroll their way to a victory, it's going to be Covington just by grinding him out if he avoids the submissions and just landing some better punches on the feet.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. Give me Damian Maya first-round submission. I'm not being this isn't a biased pick, unlike, Jed's and a little bit Wes. I mean, I do think Maya taps him out. Colby Covington, he's a great wrestler. He's a fantastic wrestler, but he's very basic. And, I mean, I guess if you do, really get down and think about it, maybe he does get on top of Maya and grind him out, and maybe there is a way to beat Maya. Tyron Woodley showed that. I don't really think Colby can do that. He's getting better on the feet. We've seen that as of late. I think personally, I noticed his striking improvements most against Brian Barberina at the end of last year. I'm sure they've just gotten better. It's just gotten better from then, but Damian Maya, I mean, this guy is beating everybody other than the champion, and there's no shame in losing to Woodley, of course, and it sucked that fight was terrible, but it's the way it is. I mean, Colby Covington has never fought anybody like Damian Maya in his life, and I think he's going to be a bit shocked, and I ultimately think he's going to be a bit humbled when he realizes what he is in for. He's in for night. Damian Maya is going to get inside, and I think he'll struggle at first to take Covington down, just because naturally, I'm sure Covington has really good takedown defense as a really good wrestler, but I don't think I think there's a more likely chance of Maya getting in and getting on top of Covington in a domp position and tapping him out with a rear naked choke than Covington sitting on top of Maya for 3 rounds. Honestly, that's what I think. So give me Damian Maya by his first-round submission. It's going to be beautiful. Maya submission, book it.
Okay, since you both are picking Maya, actually, I was trying to tee this up for you guys, but I'm going to take Covington because I actually think he's going to win. I think he's just going to sprawl and brawl Damian Maya. He's best friends with George Masvidal, who arguably beat Maya. I think he can do the exact same thing, only probably more effectively because Masvidal still let Maya get in on him. I don't think Covington will. So since you guys actually picked Maya, and I kind of thought you would both pick Maya, which swayed part of me picking Maya because I thought you guys would both pick Covington, and I hate Covington, so I didn't want all three of us to pick him. I'm going to pick Covington because I actually think he's going to win, and he's on my DraftKings team. So I still want to beat you guys, so I'm going to pick him because you're wrong.
I'm the same with you, and I feel bad that you abandoned me with poor Nicholas.
Well, so you both picked him, so whatever. Like I'm on Covington now.
Last chance before we move on. Covington and Maya.
I'm going to stick with Maya, but I'm almost 95% certain Colby Covington's going to win this.
That's the thing. I'm really pretty confident Covington's going to win. That's what he's on my DraftKings team.
I just don't like picking guys I don't want to win.
I agree, but I'd rather beat you guys. It's more important to me to beat y'all than it is for me to not feel bad about picking some fighter that I don't care about.
So. I'll stick with it. So if Maya does win, then you can be like, well, shoot, that was the swaying pick.
No, I've picked like 8 underdogs. I've picked a ton of dogs, so I'm probably going to take a lot of losses is what's going to happen here, Wes.
It's an interesting week.
Although there are a lot of dogs on here that we've picked and that probably will come up on top. But nonetheless, let's wait and see, and let's move on to the main event of the evening of UFC Sao Paulo. We got middleweights Derek Brunson, number 7 in the division, taking on Lyoto the Dragon Machida, former UFC champion. He's coming back. He failed to use out a drug test. He had some weird supplement in his system that's banned and got a somewhat unfair suspension. If you know what you're talking about, go talk to Ian Kidd about that. I'm sure he has a lot to say. He's, of course, with Bloody Elbow. Machida has not fought since he got destroyed by Yoel Romero, and before that, he got destroyed by Luke Rockhold. Derek Brunson is coming off a win in which he destroyed Dan Kelly. Before that, he lost to the GOAT, or not the GOAT, but one of the best fighters of all time, arguably the GOAT, Anderson the Spider Silva, in which it was a fight that he should have won, but the judges like Anderson Silva, and I can't blame the judges.
Lost.
Derek Brunson, Lyoto Machida, main event, 5 rounds. Jed, who takes it?
Dude, today should have shown you nothing if not the fact that I'm a mark. And Lyoto Machida is going to win. If Lyoto Machida can look anything like he used to look like 10 years ago, he's definitely going to win. I think it's pretty clear that Machida's to a degree washed. But maybe this 2-year or however 18 months or whatever the hell long he's been away, maybe that will be good for him. Here's the hope that somehow worked out well for him, cleared the cobwebs, get him some time to recover and get feeling better. I'm picking him basically in the dark. I think reasonably you shouldn't pick him because there are a ton of unknowns surrounding him, and Derek Brunson is a competent fighter. But Derek Brunson, I don't know if you guys remember when Derek Brunson fought Robert Whittaker, and he did that thing that he does frequently where he just runs forward and leaves, and not even runs forward. He's sort of like, if you have ever watched old school Super Smash Brothers, where Luigi's maneuver is to run forward and do this. He just runs. That's sort of what Derek Brunson does. He just runs forward, but he pokes his chin as far out as he can and stands as far forward as possible. So he just presents a big fucking target. And Lyoto Machida is a sniper. Derek Brunson lost to the most washed fighter in the world. Anderson Silva is washed. He's done. He lost to him pretty much purely on the basis of the judges being really generous and the fact that he still gave Anderson opportunities to counter him because he was that bad about giving a fuck. He's not going to take Machida down. He's going to leave his chin up in the air. Machida, I'm assuming, still has the kinetic capability, still has the kinetics in his body to just be like, oh, pap, straight left hand, dropped you, you're dead. If I won't be surprised if I'm wrong. I won't be surprised if Machida looks like shit. He's been off for a while. He didn't look great beforehand. But yeah, I gotta believe that Lyoto Machida has enough skill in the tank to snipe one time off of a wild and reckless Derek Brunson. So give me Machida with an early KO, probably second round. You know what? I'm going to call my shot. Lyoto Machida with a KO at the buzzer of the first round, a la not Thiago Santos. Who the hell am I thinking about? Why can't you tell me the name of the man that he killed? Thiago Silva. There we go. Sorry, so many Thiagos.
Oh, Lyoto Machida. Yeah, 459 of the first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right at the buzzer, he's going to drop him. Derek Brunson's going to face plant into the canvas, slash the cage, and just be tripoded up there on his face like that. And then John McCarthy, whoever the ref's going to come in and be like, yeah, this one's over. It's over now. I know the buzzer already rang, but it's over. So, Lyoto Machida, first round KO.
I love that. I'm not too sure about the pick on this one. I'm probably gonna stick with
all other fights.
And honestly, I think this card might be one of the closest. They're not the closest, but one of the cards the cards of the year that we've seen that has the most closest matchups. I don't know about what you all think on this one, but I feel like most of them are just could go either way. But the initial pick that I had, and I don't really want to change it, even though I definitely want to, was Derek Brunson. There were two things I found, and I tweeted out earlier just about each of them. Derek Brunson has never seen a fourth or fifth round in his mixed martial arts career. So that's a little bit concerning. I think if this fight goes out of the third round, I definitely trust Lyoto Machida a little bit more. His cardio has actually always been pretty solid. There's never been a time in his career where he seems to struggle later in the fights. Gegard Mousasi was able to control pretty well in the final rounds of that one. Also, when he fought Chris Weidman, was able to capitalize, I think, really good in the fourth round and also somewhat in the fifth, to where he was able to land some pretty good punches. So I think Machida favors, especially in that fourth and the fifth round. But the biggest unknown for him is the fact that now that it's 12:14 my time, he hasn't fought in 1,040 days, nearly 3 years. His last victory came in December of I guess that was his last win. So it was 1,040 days ago over CB Dalloway, who, of course, hasn't really been the best recently.
CB Dalloway.
Had an accident in an elevator, that kind of CB Dalloway. But then again, his last victory came over Gegard Mousasi. Impressive victory there. Mark Munoz in knockout. Dan Henderson definitely beat Phil Davis, but didn't. Machida's still a pretty good athlete, but I guess after he got suspended, I don't really know too much about the banned substances he took. 7-keto DHA. I'm not going to do any chemistry right now, but doesn't sound too good. Suspended 18 months. Lyoto Machida, I'm not really sure how that's going to impact him, especially with a layoff and knowing the fact that he did test positive for something by USADA. Derek Brunson, though, it's always a risk to pick him because this guy's ridiculously and over-ridiculously aggressive. The fact that he got starched by Robert Whitaker after pretty much exerting all of his energy looking for a fast and early knockout, and the fact that all of his other victories have come so quick, we haven't had a chance to see him in his last 4 or 5 fights. I'm going to assume it was 5. I know you don't want to hear it, but when he fought Roland Carnero, was able to get a knockout in that one, and also a lot of other guys in the first round pretty much throughout that streak. Sorry, I made you laugh. I didn't want to bring it up.
It's okay.
I
We'll
was
allow
I
it.
kind of have to. All right. But Brunson, he does have some pretty aggressive power, but like I said, he hasn't seen that fourth and fifth round. His last victory came by a decision, was over Lorenz Larkin back in 2014, and then a Chris Leben in 2012. I'm going to stick with Derek Brunson. I feel like maybe he can utilize a takedown in there and get some kind of ground and pound early. Just because I feel like it's going to go either a Brunson early finish or a Lyoto Machida early/late finish, because Machida can definitely finish guys early too. I think Machida might have, I guess, more variety in a sense to get a finish throughout the rounds, but I think Brunson's just his power with that left hand. Also, the fact, too, I'm taking a look at Lyoto Machida now. His last 2 fights were both against Yoel Romero and Luke Rockhold, fantastic athletes, but both southpaws. And Derek Brunson's also with southpaw, so maybe Machida's starting to struggle a little bit more against the southpaw fighters. And I feel like maybe that's making me, I don't know, stick with Brunson a little bit more, but then again, Brunson's just a little bit too wild with his hands. I'll stick with it. Don't want to ramble too much more. I'm going to stick with Brunson. I think he's going to be able to land that left hand or maybe score a takedown and land some ground and pound, but more likely the left hand there either in the first or second round. But I think Derek Brunson can get it done. Not too confident, though, in the later rounds. I think Lyoto Machida is definitely one of favorite if so.
All right. Before I give my prediction, just remind me after I'm done. Just Bleed MMA from the Twitter land is watching, and he had a question. He asked if we were going to take questions. We don't usually, but
Sure, let's do it. Fuck yeah.
But no one asked, so that's why we don't. So we'll answer that. It's related to the fight, so we'll do that after I break it down. So interesting fight, close fight. It could. I don't see this being like a fight of the night, so to speak. I think if Machida wins, it'll look kind of like the Anderson Silva Brunson fight, where just sort of the right scorecard and well, actually, I mean, it wouldn't be Anderson losing, but actually winning on the judges. You know what I mean? But if it goes Brunson's way, then it's probably going to be a bad night for the Brazilian legend in Machida. Firstly, on Machida, I'm worried about the layoff coming off the USADA suspension. I know it wasn't like an anabolic steroid. I know he's not going to look a lot smaller, but the fact is he did test positive for a banned substance, and subsequently he's coming off a big layoff. His last fight was in June, at the end of June of 2015. It's been 2.5 years pretty much. Crazy layoff. Brunson, on the other hand, has been quite active. He fought Anderson Silva, should have won, and he also fought Dan Kelly, as most recently knocked him out really quick within a minute or two. Machida, he is the more technical striker. He could be more powerful. He has his fair share of knockouts, but as of late, you can't really even say as of late because he's been out for so long, but his most recent, well, now that I look, I mean, it's so stupid because I assume Machida hasn't won by knockout in a while, and his last win was by knockout, but that was against Holloway. I mean, most recently, over the past little while, he has gone the distance. Okay, take that back. His last 3 fights have all ended
right now,
inside the distance. That's really terrible. That's really bad. So forget all that. But Machida, I don't see him knocking out Brunson. I don't think that'll happen. Robert Whittaker knocking out Brunson, sure, that makes sense. But Machida, I just don't quite see it. I don't think this is going to be the Machida of old. I think this is going to be, what is he? Let's see, 37, 30. I think this is going to be 39-year-old Leo Machida. He's going to be a bit slower than we're used to. He's not going to be as flashy. He's not going to, land brutal kicks like he sometimes do. He's not going to be the same guy that he was even when he fought, say, Chris Weidman in July of 2014. It's incredible that was almost 3.5 years ago. Seems like that was very recently just because he hasn't fought too much since then. Derek Brunson, I'm going to go with Derek Brunson. It kind of pains me because Leo Machida is a better fighter than Derek Brunson, but Derek Brunson in 2017, I like his chances a bit more. He hits a lot harder. He's a lot wild, or more wild. So, as Jed said, the whole leaving your chin open and going forward, punching crazily, he leaves, we saw in the Whittaker fight, he left himself completely open and he paid for it. And he could have done the same thing against Anderson, although Anderson is, he's Anderson Silva. He's 41 or whatever. Close fight. Going to go Derek Brunson. I think the wrestling advantage is key here. I think he's going to be able to get Lito Machida down to the ground. Brunson isn't as good of a wrestler or dominant on the mats as, say, Luke Rockhold or Yoel Romero, but I think it could look similar. I think Machida will have his moments early, but I think by the second round, Brunson takes him down and probably finishes him. Give me Derek Brunson, second round TKO, ground and pound. Fight will start out close. Machida might outpoint him early. One thing I forgot to mention, it really depends what Derek Brunson shows up. If it's the guy who was going on Murderer's Row and knocking out Uriah Hall and Dan Kelly and so on, he's probably going to beat Machida. If the guy who fought Anderson Silva shows up at the tentative, stay back, almost afraid of your opponent, realizes you're in the spotlight, okay, then he'll probably lose a bad decision. So fingers crossed, just because I'm picking him, that the guy that knocks everybody out shows up. And fingers crossed, he also remembers he can wrestle. That's something he can do and do pretty well. Give me Derek Brunson, second round TKO. Won't be pretty, but I think he'll get the job done inside the distance. Now let's go to the YouTube chat and go up to Just Bleed MMA's question. He says, Machida is 39 years old and hasn't fought in 2 years. Does a win by Brunson elevate Derek in the middleweight division? If so, how much? Machida has never been champ in the division. Jed, take it first.
Yeah, it elevates him. What do you think the people who watch fighting actually give two shits about, whether fighters are good or current? No, it elevates him in the fact that it puts a name on his resume. It elevates him by virtue, economically speaking, in the fact that the loss really fucks him pretty hard. So he really needs this win. But middleweight's just a shit division. And it doesn't matter. Derek Brunson, by virtue of beating any warm body, is going to be doing better in the middleweight division because it's a fucking garbage fire of a division. I think, that it counts for something, but it's one of those fights that, it's going to come back and be like, well, he beat a guy who hasn't fought in 5 years and is old. if he manages to if he beats Machida, and it's I guess the best way to answer that is it depends on how he beats him. If he beats him and he looks better, then it matters. If he beats him looking the exact same, still leaves his chin out, and Machida's too old to snipe him, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's better to have the win than the loss, and maybe it ups his Q rating a little bit to take home a win in the main event over a former UFC champion. And a guy who arguably beat Chris Weidman. I don't think he did, but I really wanted him to beat Chris Weidman. I think there's a credible argument that he was the best middleweight in the world for a tiny period of time. But yeah, if he comes out and just looks like same old Derek Brunson and it's just Machida can't do it, then no. But if he comes out and like, oh, suddenly he has learned how to box a little bit, he doesn't rush forward behind his chin, or shows some other new type of skill set, I think it could elevate him. But in general, I mean, this win is not going to put him over anybody that's ranked above him right now. Like, looking at the rankings, Bisping's champion, Whitaker's interim champ, then it's Rockhold, Romero, Souza, Weidman, Anderson. And if him beating Lyoto doesn't have him jump Anderson, who beat him not that long ago, doesn't have him beat Jacare or Romero, I mean, Derek Brunson is going to stay right in his particular ranking because he's never going to, until Romero gets real old, he's never going to be better than Robert Whitaker, Luke Rockhold, sort of Yoel Romero. He could maybe end up passing Jacare. I still think Jacare would take him because he's such a flawed fighter. But like Chris Weidman, Kelvin Gastelum, if he stays at middleweight, is still going to be better than him. Like, Derek Brunson just kind of stuck as a mid-tier, low-end, top 10 middleweight forever and ever. That's what he'll always and ever be.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the rankings, too. There's pretty much nothing. I'm thinking, too, the fact that Whitaker already beat him. He knocked him out in the first round. Jacare doesn't beat him back to Strikeforce, knocked him out because he did the same thing he did against Whitaker. Had a really close fight with Yoel Romero, of course, but ended up getting stopped in that. They're all above him, but then all the guys below, and then I guess Anderson Silva in there, too, even though I thought Brunson won that one. But then he's ahead of all the guys that are ranked in the top 15 that he's already beat. I'm just taking a look. The only one I see is Uriah Hall, who's ranked 10th. And he was able to knock him out pretty quick. So I don't see him moving around too much, fluctuating around the division. I think if he beats Lyoto Machida, which is pretty likely, or it is likely, it's not going to really move him anywhere, just like Jed had said. Maybe a fight with Yoel Romero again would be pretty fun, just because the two had a pretty awesome fight of the year candidate back when they fought a while ago, and now it's a new time. And the fact that they don't have fights right now, I don't know. Maybe it could match up pretty well if Derek Brunson gets a victory. We'll have to see on that one, but I don't think that it's going to elevate Brunson any higher, like Jed said, where he already is, unless he passes Silva by one. If somehow he gets past Jacare for knocking out Lyoto Machida, that's a little bit ridiculous, I think. I think if anything is going to move, it would just be one spot above Silva. Even though he lost to him, it was a close fight either way. But honestly, I think he's going to stay in that 7th spot, or should at least. If he loses, he'll probably drop, I would say, maybe 2 spots at most behind Gastelum and David Branch, or maybe just 1. I think he's going to stay pretty stationary, just kind of whatever happens in this one, I think.
Ultimately, the rankings don't matter, so let's just make that clear. But, I mean, rankings-wise, he's not going to move up because Lyoto Machida is currently unranked thanks to USADA, thanks to the layoff. It won't really mean much for his career because if he goes out there and destroys Lyoto Machida, then we all assume, okay, this wasn't, as Jed mentioned, this wasn't the Machida of old. He's washed up, he's slow, he's done, blah, blah, blah. And it ultimately doesn't really mean much other than a win on paper. Even if Machida seems and shows signs of greatness and shows that he might be back and Brunson still gets the job done, it won't mean all that much. It will be a bit of more negotiating power per se. It'll up his name a little bit because it's a name on his record, a good name, one of the better middleweights out there at a point. But ultimately, it doesn't do a ton. Having a main event is good, a main event win, of course, but ultimately, I mean, it won't do much. If Machida was still ranked number 5, then of course, but not the case. It's going to be a good win, but it won't make him like top 5 all of a sudden. It doesn't really make sense. Let's wrap this up really quick. We're coming up to 2 hours, and I mean, it was a good card, but I fear that we're going to go on way too long next week. We have GSP Bisping and many other title fights and many other good fights. So if we can't get through this in 2 hours, I wonder how long that'll take us. Well, only time will tell. Okay, so DraftKings teams bonuses. We're going to introduce a new segment real quick. Underdog pick of the week, just one guy who is betting the betting underdog plus money as we speak. One guy who stands. If you're going to put money on one underdog, who should that be? And we'll start out with our bonuses as always. Wes, performance of the night and fight of the night. Who do you got?
Oh shoot! I'm gonna give my 2 performances to. Trying to think real quick. Just I'm taking a look just because there's so many different knockout. I picked a bunch of different bonuses on this one. Because I don't think Maya's gonna win. I'm not going to give him a bonus. I'm going to go Derek Brunson and Vicente Luque because I feel like somehow he might be able to get something pretty ridiculous if they trade in the pocket.
Fight of the night?
And I'm going to give my fight of the night, man. Munoz Font could be good. Trinaldo Miller could be good. I'm going to go really off the limb, just for the hell of it. And I'm going to go Zaleski dos Santos versus Max Griffin. Because I think they both will trade a lot on the feet.
Okay, what about your underdog pick of the week, Wes?
My underdog pick of the week, I guess I'm going to keep it with what I just said. It's got to, I guess, Max Griffin's an underdog, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Or is Vicente Luque?
Max Griffin is an underdog.
Vicente Luque is not.
Okay, if Max Griffin is, I guess he'll be my underdog pick of the week.
Okay.
Jed, fight of the night, performance of the night, and underdog pick of the week will save DraftKings for last.
My fight of the night, Francisco Trinaldo, Jim Miller. Already outlined what I thought would happen there. I think Trinaldo will win the first 2. It'll be close. Miller will make a comeback. I think Trinaldo might even drop Miller in one of the first 2 rounds when Miller guts it out. So that's my fight of the evening right there. My performances, Lyoto Machida and Vicente Luque. Predicting both of them to get KOs, so I think that's good. I think there's some other options on the table for performance bonuses. Definitely kind of jump out, but going with those 2. As far as underdog, it's tough. So on the one hand, because I picked a ton of underdogs, on the one hand, I could just like pick the underdog that's the biggest underdog that I'm backing, which I believe would be Max Griffin. But since our esteemed colleague Wes Riddle has also picked Max Griffin, I'm going to not do that. Instead, I'm going to pick the underdog that I feel I guess the most confident in, that if I had to bet my life on which one of these underdogs would be the one to come out with it, let's take a gander. It's not Figueroa. It's not Hakan Diaz. It's not Max Griffin. It's not Colby Covington is the favorite. So it's not Demian Maia, certainly, because I'm picking it's not Pedro Munoz or Jim Miller. It's not Thiago Santos. Oh, look at that. It's Lyoto Machida. Bet it. I guarantee it. Lyoto, the dragon, is going to rise again and spit fire all over Derek Brunson's stupid held-out front chin. KO. He's back, bitches. Lyoto Machida, that's your dog pick of the week for me. Nicholas, bring us home with
Well, with that, let's go. Performance of the night number 1 goes to Derek Brunson. The other one goes to Rob Font. And my fight of the night will go to Trinaldo versus Miller.
That's a good fight of the night pick. You must have taken that from somebody really smart.
Yeah, I don't know who. Kind of thought of it myself, but
it's a good smart. It's a good pick.
Got a little help. My underdog pick of the week will go all day to the grappler genius himself, Demian Maia. I like him to tap out Colby Covington. Having host the podcast right now with 2 people that are quite confident in Covington, despite one of them picking Maia officially. Not as confident as I once was, but give me Demian Maia, still pretty confident that he gets the job done this Saturday night. All right, let's move on to DraftKings. Jed, we'll start with you. 6 fighters on your DraftKings team. Who do you got?
This was an extremely difficult one for me this week. I ended up with 2 lineups because I like both lineups. It was not a difficult one in general. It was just there are a lot of options. Because I picked so many underdogs, I have a lot of room to play with here, you know. But then, you know, it's just kind of weighing how confident I am in which dogs versus what. So my lineup is going to have these 3 fighters in it guaranteed. It's going to have Lyoto Machida. He's going to cost you $7,800 in salary. That's lower than the mean, and he's going to get a first-round KO. He's going to throw up 3-digit 100 points right there. That's going to happen. I don't know why you wouldn't put him on your team personally. Seems like a no-brainer to me. My second fighter I'm definitely going to have on my team, Johnny Hands of Stone Lineker. We're all picking him to beat Marlon Cheeto Vera. He is, I believe, the actual biggest favorite on the card as far as DraftKings numbers go. I don't know on the actual odds, but he cost you 9,400 smackaroos. But let's be serious, guys. He's going to be worth every penny. He's going to come out. He's going to roast the ribs of Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera is going to get into a firefight with him. And getting into a firefight with John Lineker means one single thing. It means you're going to sleep. John Lineker is going to put up points and then put up a KO highlight reel knockout. Put John Lineker on your team, $9,400 or not. Person 3, first one that's going way out there, really cheap, offsets a lot of things. I told you very early this evening. Davison, however you do it, Figueiredo, Alcantara Figueiredo over Jared Brooks. I like Figueiredo. I like his size, his physicality. I think he can control the fight. He's only costing you $7,300. His one previous DraftKings effort put up 110 points. That is sensational points for value right there. I've got him on my team because I think he's going to edge out Jared the Monkey God Brooks. Those 3 are set for certain. After that, I'm going to give you either or options. The team I'm going to pick would be Rob Font, Colby Covington, and Vicente Luque. But I think that there's the other team that I was debating between is Shoeface Maya and Hermanson, but I ultimately ended up going with the Font Covington Luque team because
which is much better.
I think it is, but I don't know, because having Shoeface on your team, Shoeface, let's just be honest, guys, he's $9,200, but he, like John Lineker, guaranteed points. Jack Marshman cannot stop the takedown. And once he's on the ground, I know that Jack Marshman can grapple a little bit. Carlos Jr., another world, another time, and just so far beyond, it doesn't even matter. He's going to get Jack Marshman on the floor. He's going to wrap him up like a pretzel. Then he's going to put a bow on him and send him to your house, Nick, because you didn't believe in him. Shoeface is going to come up with points, and I really wanted to get him on my team, but it was hard to get him and Lineker on my team. I had to put Demian Maia, who, like I said, I'm pretty confident is going to lose to Colby Covington. If he doesn't, if Maia comes out, sneaks to the back, and chokes him out, I'm going to really wish I had option B, had the B team on my squad, because that's going to be a ton of points. But he's not. He's going to get smashed. He's going to get pancaked. He's going to eat a bunch of jabs and lose a really lackluster decision. And the last guy, Jack Hermanson, Wes pointed out Thiago Santos not that great on the ground. Hermanson probably going to be able to take him down, get the back, and hang on, maybe lock up a sub there. I think both teams have merit, especially because you are getting Antonio Carlos Jr. on that other one. But I'm sticking with Rob Font, Colby Covington, and Vicente Luque in large part, because I just don't believe in Demian Maia. Covington's not going to put up a ton of points, but he's pretty cheap. He only costs you $8,200. Vicente Luque, me and Wes are both of the opinion he is going to get a highlight reel KO in some type of wild exchange with the price. $8,500, a little bit high, a little bit pricey. Could come back to bite me in the ass. We'll see, but that's my team. What about you guys?
So my team, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's either going to do very good or very bad. It's one of those kind of teams. I'll start from the top. I've got Jared Brooks to start. I had to get a cheaper guy on there, and I thought that he'd maybe be a kind of decent one to throw on. I've got Rob Font. I'm very confident in Rob Font getting a victory in this one. I think he's going to be able to put up a lot of points, as his average point total is at 95.8. That's one of the highest on the card, so he's going to be able to rack up a decent amount of points. Threw on Max Griffin. I think Max Griffin can get it done. I threw on John Lineker. I think that John Lineker is going to be able to get a very dominant victory in his fight. So I'm pretty confident, especially in Font and Lineker, probably the two most. Brooks and Griffin, I think they can get it done, but I'm not too sure. Two I'm not too certain on. Lyoto Machida. I had to throw him on there. I did have Nico Price, but I wanted to switch him out. I thought Machida would be a better and more likely pick, seeing that the fight is 5 rounds and seeing that Machida could maybe do some damage still throughout the fight. While Nico Price definitely has the ability to get knocked out pretty quick if fighting Vicente Luque. And then I went Demian Maia. I had to get another guy on there. Not really too confident, but I think that Demian Maia, if he's able to pull off some kind of submission, I feel like it'll happen early. And if it does, he'll be able to get quite a bit of points. So that's my DraftKings.
Who's your 6th? I've got Machida, Lineker, Griffin, Font, Maia, and who else?
Machida, Lineker, Griffin, Font, Maia, and Jared Brooks.
Brooks, okay.
Alrighty, my team goes like this. And last week I could not make a team. Struggle. I think I didn't pick a single dog, so that didn't help. Here I'm picking a number of dogs. Just at first glance, I got Maia, Thiago Santos, Nico Price, Figueiredo, and that's it. So I have a number of options for this team, and ultimately I came out really happy. I might switch it up, but this one might be – looks like it's probably locked in. Number 1, I got Derek Brunson. I like him to finish Lyoto Machida. Number 2, I got John Lineker. I like him to finish Marlon Chito Vera. Number 3, I got Demian Maia. I like him to finish Colby Covington. Number 4, I got Nico Price. I like him to finish Vicente Luque. Number 5, I got Thiago Santos. I like him to decision Jack Hermanson. And number 6, I have Francisco Trinaldo. I like him to decision Jim Miller. Iffy one is kind of, I guess, Thiago Santos, who, well, A, doesn't have, Hermanson has a good chance here, and B, even if Santos does win, I don't see it being a ton of points. I think it'll be a close fight. I guess you guys have sort of talked me out of Maia. I'm still picking him, still confident, but Maia, I guess, could be an iffy one. But ultimately pretty happy. Brunson, Lineker, Maia, Price, Santos, Trinaldo is my team. Anything else you'd like to add? Any last comments, or shall we get out of here?
Wrap it up.
Jed, let everybody know where they can find you on social media, where they can find your writing, and anything else you would like to plug.
You can find me on social media at Jed K. Meshew on Twitter. Give me a follow there. My writing every single day at MMAfighting.com, the award-winning MMAfighting.com. As far as other things I got going on, next week, the triumphant return of my podcast, The Naked Truth. Taking some time off while I was handling just kind of a hectic life schedule and didn't really have time to produce one, but things may be clearing up a little bit, and so we're going to try and get back for 217 and then go forward from there. But more importantly, for me personally and for the world at large, I guess, really, November 4th, that you know that day. When you think about that day is UFC 217. What's also happening on UFC 217 day, I'm running a marathon, my first ever. I'm running to raise money for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. It is a wonderful cause. I would love if you could contribute. You can go find, it's the pinned tweet on top of my Twitter page. Anything you got, $5, $10, doesn't matter. All of it's a tax write-off. All of it goes to help children fighting childhood cancer. There is no better cause in the whole world. Thank you very much to everybody who already has supported, including our own Nicholas Baldwin right there. I'm happy to do this. It's good to have all three of us back, guys. It was fun. Thanks.
It was. Wes, let everybody know where they can find you on social media, where they can find your writing, which I know you haven't had the most time for as of late, and anything else you'd like to plug. Before you do that, Liam Hughes, one of our most, now he's saying yes. What is FFOTS? Anybody know? Fantasy football of the season? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't have a clue.
Well, that's what he is, so congratulations. But he wants Wes to follow him on Twitter. It is at Twitter with 2 T's, not 3. So Wes, grant him his wish. He'll be the happiest man alive. And Jed, that creepy guy that hugged the naked DC, he wants you to unblock you on Twitter. I feel like that's not happening, but
who?
I don't know what his Twitter handle is. Yeah, are you Edanis every day on Twitter? I think you are. So he wants you to unfollow or unblock you. He keeps calling you. Okay. Oh no, Liam wants Jed to follow you. Okay, this is too confusing. Wes,
I don't. It's just you're dying.
Quick, hurry, Wes.
All right, I'm just gonna wrap it up. I'm beat and I have to go to CrossFit in the morning. My name is Wes Riddle. And you can follow me on Twitter at all that MMA. I do some writing over at MMAsucker.com, but I haven't had a chance to recently just because I've been busy out of my mind. This semester has been ridiculously difficult. Next semester will be fun though. So next semester I will have plenty of free time and plenty of opportunities to do anything related to mixed martial arts. But like I said, Twitter at all that MMA, and some more writing over at MMAsucker.com. Besides that, I'm glad I can be back on the show, and hopefully I will not get too busy the rest of the semester, even though I'm definitely wishing for too much because it's about to take off, especially after this week. But I'm hopefully going to be able to fit in some time to keep doing this and keep talking MMA. So thanks again for having me on.
Alrighty, you guys can find me on I don't know what the hell that was, Wes. You guys can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. You can find my other podcasts. They are called The MMA Circus and Beyond Combat. The MMA Circus, we recorded episode 134 with my co-host Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence just earlier tonight on this YouTube channel. As of right now, that is only where you can find it. As of tomorrow morning, it'll be on bloodyelbow.com, iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Google Play, and so on and so on. Don't forget SoundCloud. Go check it out. We talked about this card a little bit. We talked about Darren Till's big win over Donald Cerrone, and we talked about Gegard Mousasi's somewhat underwhelming Bellator debut last weekend. Go check it out after this. Yes, you're laughing. That was underwhelming. Well,
no, I'm laughing at the chat that I did not pay attention to, and you fuckers are crazy.
It's fantastic. So thank you to you guys.
Some dude filed in here and was like, yeah, Tony Ferguson was letting Kevin Lee beat the fuck out of him in round 1. He wasn't letting shit happen, dude. Kevin Lee fucking housed him. And sorry, like, that's just the truth. Props to Tony for being a tough motherfucker and sticking it out, but, like, ain't no let about that. Kevin Lee is just a fucking monster on top.
All right. Well, there you go. Thank you guys for being active in chat. We appreciate it, whether or not you know what you're talking about. That's fantastic.
I might read our chat. That was fun.
Yes, you should.
Our chat was wild today.
Yes. My other podcast, Beyond Combat, launched last week. We literally go beyond combat. We bring together mixed martial arts and the outside world. I talk to people, MMA personalities, journalists, writers, fans, whoever, and talk about a hobby or a career that's completely unrelated to mixed martial arts. It's actually a lot of fun. Episode 1, I did with MMAsector.com founder Jeremy Brand. We talked about him working with special needs kids in Vancouver. So go check that out. Go check that out. Episode 1 is on this YouTube channel exclusively. That is it. Enjoy the fights. We appreciate you guys watching. Good night. Talk to you later. We'll be back next week for the big end. UFC 217. GSP's back.
Love you guys.